Welcome into a Friday show, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for the change in intro. We did that intentionally because we have JJ, the one and only JJ.
The Wonderkind.
What was that? The Wonder what?
Wonderkind.
He's the best. He is training today behind the board, behind the big train. So the cameras look different, don't they, Diesel? Look, what am I looking at here? You see me? Now you don't? You hear me? Now you don't? Can you see me okay? I'll adjust that camera during the break if we need to. But welcome in to Wire to Wire. I'm Cole Bryson. Friday show coming at you today. Again, shout out to JJ. Give him a shout out as he is behind the big train, running things today, getting things groovy for Diesel and I right here on the Fan Upstate. But a huge show coming your way. We appreciate all of the interaction yesterday as it was a very interactive show. We always expected it to be interactive. We just didn't know it was going to be as interactive as it was. Things groovy now, Diesel. Are they good?
We're good. We didn't know that we were going to have not one but two forest fires yesterday. Number one was right here on I-26 in Spartanburg County. Number two was up there in Providence, Rhode Island, where Clemson crapped the bed and got themselves knocked out.
Yeah, well, obviously that's where we're starting the show. Look at this. Looks weird. I'm not used to you and I over here on the same side. I mean, it's gonna take me maybe 4 hours to get used to this today.
Good news is with our camera set up on the stream, if I look towards you on the stream, I'm actually looking towards you. Instead of flip the other way, because if we flip the cameras, then I look at you. Now I'm looking away from you on the stream, and that doesn't make any sense.
But you know what? We've got it rocking and rolling. I'm over here. JJ's doing a great job behind the big train, so give JJ a shout-out if you are on the stream already. Stephen Webb, Brian Pettit. You can watch the show live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, and we're going to kick things off in this very segment with Clemson. But first, let's go to the scoreboard to get you updated on what's going on in the March Madness tournament. A very busy day today, just like yesterday. Rinse and repeat, Diesel, is all it takes today, as we have had, 2 games go final. We're going to get into Clemson. Tolos, bear with us. 844-FAN phone is the way you can call and text the show. But let's get through some scores first and set the table, set the scene on what has happened thus far. So, Diesel, the 2 games that have gone final today, Baylor defeated Mississippi State 75-72. The first game of the day, just like yesterday, I got wrong already. Did you get that one?
I'm good. I'm 2 for 2 so far today, so I'm coming back, baby.
You picked Baylor.
Yesterday was a terrible day for me, Cole. Terrible day. Given the standings of our wire-to-wire men's bracket challenge at ESPN.com, I'm not proud of this, Cole. I was 4th from last. Fourth from last after day 1.
If you're not first, you're last, right?
Well, I wasn't last, so I'm nothing, really.
Said the great philosopher, Ricky Bobby. But
it's actually his dad.
Was it?
What was his dad's name? Reese. Reese Bobby.
I would have never
Reese
guessed
Bobby.
But, of course, you, the movie guy, you knew that. I got 4 wrong yesterday. I've already gotten 1 wrong today. I'm 1 for 1. I picked Mississippi State over Baylor. Baylor won 75-72. Tolos, who did you pick in that one? 844-326-3663. Also, let us know on the stream where, we got 38 already in the stream.
Love
Comments
it.
going.
Let's get it to 50.
Alabama defeated Robert Morris just a few minutes ago, 90-81. However, Diesel, that game a lot closer than I believe most people expected it to be. 90-81, Bama escapes. A great offensive output from the Crimson Tide. However, not the greatest defensive showing, allowing 81 points. You picked Alabama, right?
I did. Yeah. Believe it or not, I did get that one right.
No Robert Morris pick from Diesel. And then we have 2 games in progress. Lipscomb, Iowa State is not close. 7 minutes and 53 seconds to go in that game. Iowa State leads 64-38. And then Diesel halftime, Memphis, Colorado State, 36-31. Memphis leads. Who'd you pick in that one?
In the Memphis
Colorado State?
I picked Memphis in that game.
See, I picked Colorado State. And I'm already regretting it, and I don't think that was a good pick.
5 points at halftime, though. It's a 12-5 matchup.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, the statistics say essentially 1 out of every 3 12-5 matchups is an upset.
Yep.
And this is going back all the way to 1985. So, yeah, I mean, there's a good – we already had one 12-5 matchup upset yesterday with McNeese State knocking off Clemson. So, you know, if there's no more, then we'd track basically with the historical averages.
It is still just a 5-point game. We'll see. But again, Memphis leads Colorado State 36-31 at this very moment. We will get to the phone lines in a few minutes from now. I want to let you know the phone lines are open. JJ is doing his best of getting that info for you, and we'll come to the phone lines. The Hub City Spartanburgers text line is also open, 844-326-3663, a great way to interact with the show. But that's the table. That's the scene from what we've got going on. We'll get into Clemson. We have a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss. I went home last night and watched the game again. You and I watched it.
Wow, I knew
live.
you were a hunter. I knew you were a fisherman. I didn't know that you were a sadist.
Yes, evidently. Because you and I were on the air, and you know, we watched the game. However, my full attention wasn't on the game, right? It was a little bit difficult and to follow it intensely. So I went home and rewatched it. I have thoughts on it. Get into that. First, JJ, do we have a phone call over there? All right, go hold ready. Or Diesel's got it over here.
I got
believe.
it on this side.
Is that Dewey? Do we have Dewey already? Looks like Dewey chiming in. What's up, Dewey?
Yes. First of all, I'm disappointed in y'all's bracket. You're letting Rob Brown beat y'all.
Well, it's not over yet, Dewey. It's not
A
over yet.
lot of games to play, Dewey. But you are right. Rob Brown crushed it on day number 1. He got 14 out of 16 right. This is crazy. I called Rob, and I wondered, I was like, did you figure out some backdoor way to go and change your picks mid-game? Because
he cheated. He probably used
that's
AI
how it is.
Or a PlayStation or something.
I understand.
No, credit to Rob. He's
No,
done great.
Credit to Rob, but more credit goes to Mrs. Rob because she's beating him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is she still leading, Diesel?
No. This perfect bracket, username Calm Down Liberob is in first place right now with a perfect bracket. 180 points have been earned so far. Drew Topia, who's a Tolo, is in second place, as is Smithhead 67. I got this TRBS. Mrs. Robinson. There's a lot of people with 160 points, but there is a perfect bracket in here. And I didn't see that one yesterday. I heard, Cole, that Rob was calling into question how somebody was able to get in and have a perfect bracket, because this wasn't the case. This person didn't have a perfect bracket as of yesterday while we were on the air. So how did this happen? I don't know. Somebody's hacking the system, Dewey.
Thanks for the call, Dewey. We appreciate you.
I got a couple of thoughts on Clemson.
Okay, spit them out.
Well, first of all, I watched. I did what you did. I rewatched it.
Okay.
So something didn't sit well with me with the game. Well, two things.
You sure that wasn't the
takeaways.
chicken wings that you had at halftime?
Probably that too, because I pooped. I had to poop real bad for some reason.
Thanks, Dewey.
But anyways, two things, and I'm done. Two things that comes to mind.
You can do it. You can do it.
Push through.
Yep.
McNeese State, they just simply ran out of gas. Speaking of gas, they ran out of gas.
McNeese State ran out of gas.
Clemson, you cannot be down 25 points in the first half and expect to come back to win. It doesn't matter how high schoolish the other team is. It just doesn't happen.
Okay.
But give it to Clemson for all of a sudden becoming good again. And that's about it. And
okay, thanks, Dewey.
Thanks,
that was
Dewey.
rough today. That was.
I didn't understand a word he just
I need a
said.
translator there. All right, let's get into it. 24 hours later, Diesel, I watched the game again. I have some thoughts. I have some notes because there is a lot to get into. There is. I want to keep this segment, these next 10 minutes, about the game, what happened, and then at 4:20, after we're joined by Grayson, man of TigerNet, we'll talk about Brad Brunell. Let's talk about Brad at 4:20 because my thoughts have changed a little bit on Brad. I know you know where I stood yesterday, Diesel, on Brad Brunell. My thoughts have changed a little bit. We'll get into that at 4:20. So Tolos, turn it on, leave it on, and then on the text line, let us know what you thought about yesterday's game now that you've had a little bit of time to sleep on it, meditate on it. Clemson 24 hours-ish later. The first thing, Diesel, I heard 3 different coaches yesterday after their games on live television talk about not being ready for a zone defense. Brad Brunell was one of the 3 coaches that referenced that. We'll get some Brad Brunell audio later for you in the show from what he said post-game. But the first thing that I wrote down is what makes March Madness so incredible, what makes March Madness incredibly difficult for some teams is that it is a one-game scenario where you may be playing against a team that you're not familiar with, you don't know their tendencies, you don't know how they match up against you. And most sports are about matchups, Diesel, most are. Basketball, March Madness, it is so much about matchups. Yesterday, Clemson ran into a zone defense. Will Wade threw a 1-3-1 at him. Will Wade threw a 2-3 at him. Will Wade threw a 3-2 at him. And Clemson in the first half looked lost going against that zone defense. Most of basketball today that's played is man. So, again, how much of that falls on Brad? We'll get to that at 4:20. But I thought that Clemson would be a little bit more prepared for McNeese's zone defense, having the fact that they had a few days to prepare for it. They had film on McNeese, and they weren't.
Well, not being prepared for zone is inexcusable because these guys have been playing, number one, they've been playing against zones their entire life. Number two, these coaches have been coaching zones their entire life. And there's only so many combinations you can do. You can do a 3-2. You can do a 2-3. You can do a 1-3-1, and that's basically it. I mean, you can float some guys here and there, and I've seen a couple teams play this season where they'll take one of the guys from the 3 spot, the 3 line in a 1-3-1 zone, and they'll have that guy float forward and backwards to make it change from a 1-3-1 into a 2-2-1 or a 1-2-2. You know, so you can do a little bit of massaging and changing things up with a zone, but how much can you really do? I mean, this is not like they're reinventing the wheel and coming out with some trick play in postseason.
It's just that it's not as prevalent, right, as man is.
Well, that's on coaching.
It's on coaching. It's also on player. It's on both, in my mind. It's on both. And, again, I'll get into that, in terms of what Brad could have done better in the few days leading up to the game. I also wrote down the ACC. The ACC did not expose Clemson in a way that McNeese exposed them yesterday. McNeese was more athletic. McNeese was more physical down low. I'm not saying there weren't good teams in the ACC. I just wrote down after watching last night, Clemson never got exposed during the course of the ACC like they did against McNeese. And Brad Brunell said yesterday postgame, we chose the wrong day to have an awful day. They got exposed on the worst day possible. You somehow, Diesel, have to be able to work it into your schedule as a coach. And I know everybody wants to win every game, right? That's the goal. But if I'm a coach, I want to get exposed during the regular season. I do. I want to get exposed so that when the postseason comes around, I feel like I know my team best. I know what our strengths are and what our weaknesses are.
Do you know how many ranked teams Clemson played over the course of its regular season, Cole?
I'm just going to
top 25.
I'm just going to throw out a guess here. I'm going to go 4.
3.
3, okay.
They played 3, and that includes playing Louisville in the ACC championship game. Now, Louisville was not ranked at the time that Clemson played them midway through the season, but they did get ranked by the time they got to the end of the season into the ACC tournament. So you could count that and say that was a ranked team. But Louisville, Duke, and Kentucky, the only 3 ranked teams that Clemson played all season long. So they got to figure out a way until the ACC brings itself back up, and you've got 4 or 5 ranked teams in that conference year in and year out. They got to figure out a way to get more ranked teams on their schedule early so they can play tough opponents. And this is their opportunity to scout college basketball. Brad Brunell, I hope that Brad Brunell is sitting here watching NCAA basketball right now and saying, who can we cherry pick out of this tournament field to put on our out of conference schedule early next season. If you look at somebody and say, ooh, they're doing something really interesting and exotic, I want to play against them. Not just do I want to scout them, I want to play against them so that I can expose my team to some exotic looks that otherwise we're not going to see in the ACC, which is so much more man-heavy.
You know what's crazy? I would have said that Memphis would be that game because Memphis is a scrappy team. They're athletic. They get after it. However, that game was in December. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That game's been a long time. So even though you can sprinkle in some non-region games, Diesel, the truth of the matter is the ACC wasn't good this year. That's the truth of the matter. The
No.
ACC wasn't good. Clemson down the stretch was not tested, was not exposed in a way where they could take that and turn it into positivity. They stumbled at times down the stretch, and then a few other things I wrote down. I know we're getting close to a break. Yesterday in the first half, Brad Brownell was in a tough spot, and I'll tell you why. In the first half yesterday, his best player was non-existent. His second best player was non-existent. So, obviously, those two players not being in the game and not being, involved, it's catastrophic. It's on them. But I'll tell you why Brad's in a tough spot, Diesel, is because Brad Brownell, when his number one and number two, when Chase Hunter and Ian Shefflin aren't playing well, what's Brad Brownell going to do? Guess what? When he looks over to the bench, he can't put Chauncey Wiggins in. There's no production there. He can't put other guys in. He has no depth. I talked about this. We talked about this for weeks and weeks and weeks, the lack of depth on Clemson's bench. So when you're 1 and 2 or having an awful day, guess what? There's nobody you can go to. Also, Diesel, throughout the course of the season, when your 1s and 2s are in practice and in games, who's pushing the 1s and 2s? Who's pushing them? You don't have guys on the bench who are pushing them on a daily basis, and that matters. Brad Brownell, for as much as flack as he's going to get, and some of it is very deserved for the loss yesterday, to his defense, when his best player and second best player haven't even gotten off the plane in Providence yet, what's he going to do? Go put Dale Jones in and expect to get 24 from Dale Jones? He was in a tough spot in that first half.
So, Cole, here's a novel idea. Total spark of inspiration you just gave me. What do WNBA teams and a lot of the best women's college basketball teams do when it comes to practice?
Use, South Carolina uses men.
They use men.
Yeah.
Right. They use men. So if Clemson knows that they don't have a lot of depth and that their 2s are not going to be very good at pushing their 1s, maybe they go and pull a couple of ex-pros. Maybe they go and pull a couple of guys who are better than what they've got on their roster. Even former Clemson players, who are a year or two after graduation. They don't go off to the NBA. You get some high-level guys, some big dudes, cherry-picked for situational learning opportunities. I mean, I don't think you could do that over the course of the regular season, but early on in camp, I think that's an opportunity and probably something Brad Brownell needs to look at to get his guys ready.
I'm not shooting your idea down. I'm just saying he shouldn't have to.
No, he shouldn't have to.
Go get depth. Go get guys. Go get freshmen. Go get guys who are going to stay in the program.
Well, Duke has depth. They got 8 guys who are elite when everybody's healthy.
And don't
Clemson doesn't have depth.
McNeese yesterday, I'm not going to act like McNeese played 8, 9 guys. They played 7 or whatever guys yesterday. But when you look at matchups, when you look at what happened yesterday, it comes down to McNeese matching up against Clemson in a way that they were, number one, more physical, especially in the paint. Number two, they were explosive and they were aggressive, and I thought yesterday McNeese was the more athletic team. When you talk about recruiting guys, Brad Brownell has done a terrific job in the portal. Give him a ton of credit for that. But yesterday, you know what Clemson wasn't? Clemson wasn't the more athletic team yesterday. Here's the news flash for you. When you play McNeese and you're Clemson, you should be the more athletic team, period.
Yeah.
You should be. You have more resources. You have a coach who's been there a long time and knows what it takes to win. He's a good coach. We'll talk about what he is beyond that at 420, but you should not get on that floor yesterday and have a 13-point showing in the first half and not look like the more athletic team.
Well, he's got to hit that portal even harder, get some more dudes in for next year. He's got a lot of key pieces that he's got to replace. When we come back, Cole, Wofford put forth a valiant effort against Tennessee, but just they fell short. And we want to highlight some of what happened in that game and talk about some of the biggest performances so far on day one and going into day two of this 2025 edition of March Madness. We'll talk about all of that next on the Fan Upstate. know that I've ever done this bad on day one of my bracket, Cole. I know last year, opening round out of 32 games, I probably got something close to 27 of them right. On day one, I went 8-8.
Yesterday,
yeah, it's not good.
it's like
It's
the
not
Dallas
good.
Cowboys back in the day.
What do you mean back in the day? It's like Dallas
2015.
Cowboys still.
No, they haven't gone 8-8 since 2015. Thank
Well,
you.
they've
It's
sucked.
been a while. No, they haven't.
Until they
That's
get to
not
the
true.
playoffs.
That's not true.
Until they get to the
facts
playoffs.
right. Come on.
Speaking of a team that actually does make the playoffs, Wofford. They last night took on a juggernaut in Tennessee, and unfortunately, Cole did not have enough to chop down that redwood that is the Tennessee Volunteer Basketball Program. Valiant effort by Wofford. You know, I don't know if I said this on the air yesterday, but I know I said it to my wife last night. I said if Wofford can keep it within 15 points, I would say they performed admirably against Tennessee. Now, she was like, I want to see Wofford get blown out by 40 because she's a Furman alum, and, you know, there's no love lost there between the Terriers and the Paladins. But Wofford did keep it within 15. I think they were down like 9 at halftime in that game. But to Wofford's credit, Tennessee's average margin of victory over the course of the season against mid-majors on their schedule was 27. And Wofford definitely beat that, lost by 15. Do you remember off the top of your head what the spread was on that game? 18.5. So they beat the spread. Congratulations to Wofford for that. Unfortunately, it does end their streak of 4 straight tournament appearances where they have advanced past the round of 64. So that streak comes to a close. But, you know, you gotta feel good about yourselves if you're Wofford. Going toe-to-toe against a team like Tennessee. We talked about it with Wofford's center. He was like 6'9", and he had to go against like 4 dudes on Tennessee's roster who were 6'9" or bigger. And I was just going to wear him down over the course of a game.
You know, I said this morning, I was thinking about this, and I was talking about the game with a buddy of mine. Wofford is not in the business of moral victories, and Dwight Perry would not like me saying this. However, if you're being realistic about it, yes, upsets can happen. However, if you're being realistic about it, Diesel, Wofford, we all knew that Wofford was going up against a very good Tennessee team. Their work was going to be cut out for them. However, I felt like watching that game last night, and as close as Wofford kept it the whole time, I felt like, man, like this is all Wofford fans could have asked for. And I know, like, ultimately they'll say, no, we wanted to win. But realistically, you weren't beating Tennessee. Let's just keep it 100 here and be realistic, right? Wofford played really, really well last night. Wofford played really, really well against a really good team, Diesel. And I'll tell you this, man, they should not hang their head about anything that happened in that basketball game. They played phenomenal. Their guards were great. I thought Wofford was at times the more hungry team. They were playing like they really wanted to win. However, we talked about this yesterday. At some point, what usually happens is the talent takes over, and it's very simple. You and I can analyze this, but man, this is a case of the talent took over for Tennessee, but all the credit in the world goes to Wofford. They didn't get blown out.
There's some bright spots to point at, and I know that they will. Wofford was down 9 at halftime. They held Tennessee scoreless on their last 5 possessions in the first half, so that's certainly something to hold your hat on. That game could have gotten out of control by halftime, but it didn't, so credit to Wofford for doing that. Jackson Sevilles had 15 points in the ball game. He was excellent last night. Corey Tripp scored 14, Jeremy Lorenz 12, and Justin Bailey 10. The problem is when you go against a guy like Chaz Lanier at Tennessee, who shoots 50% from the field, 11 of 22, with 29 points. When you're facing anybody, doesn't matter if they're 2 major teams going after each other, you're giving up 29 points to anybody. You're unlikely to be successful in that game because somebody is clearly feeling it on that night. And you could ask that very question about, now I'm blanking on his name, the guy that came off the bench for McNeese State and had like 20-something points for McNeese State. He was Brandon Murray. Had 21 points for McNeese State last night. So, again, nothing to hang your heads at, Wofford fans. I know it's not the result that you wanted, but you played well. You gave up a lot of points off turnovers, and that was a big issue for you. You gave up 14 points off of 11 turnovers, you scored 0 points off of turnovers. And that goes back to what you were saying about athleticism and Tennessee's ability to stretch the court, to use that speed, use that length, get the ball down the court, and score on fast break opportunities. Again, 14-0 was the differential there. Not to say if Wofford got a couple of buckets off of turnovers, would it have changed the outcome of the game? No, because they still lost the game by 15 points. But if Wofford scores 6-8 points, it's a really tight game, and anything could have happened down the stretch.
And when you look at it, in order for Wofford to pull off an upset like that, you've got to have a guy off the bench go off. You've got to have your starting five give really good production. You mentioned Dylan Bailey yesterday, only 3 points, not the most production offensively from him. Corey Tripp was really good with 14 points last night. And then Jeremy Lorenz off the bench was fantastic. He played 25 minutes and 12 points, 4 of 6 from the floor, 2 of 3 from three-point land. Jackson Silvas always carries his weight. He's fantastic. But Kyler Felowich, your center, your guy that's, has to do the dirty work down low. Kyler Felowich, when you look at the matchups that he had against Tennessee, it's not, the recipe's not there. There's no way going against a team like Tennessee or a Florida or a Kentucky that Kyler Felowich offensively is going to be able to give you enough points to be able to go and have Tennessee, no disrespect to Wofford, Tennessee would have had to have a catastrophic failure in the second half in order for Wofford to have won this game. No, in this first half, that was Clemson.
No, it's exactly. No, I mean, there's an old saying, how do you eat an elephant one forkful at a time? And it's like with Kyler Felowich, they plopped 2 elephants down in front of him and said, good luck. Let's see what you can do, big boy.
Shout out to Jared real quick on the Facebook stream who watches and listens on 97.1 Spartanburg and 97.7 Greenville. Jared says, Jared Herron, by the way. Cole, not going to lie, on the radio, you sound a lot older than you look. I've gotten that. Wesley Roberts was laughing. Thanks, Wesley. Appreciate that. Not funny. I think that's a compliment, though, from Jared. He says, anyways, love the show. Appreciate what you guys do. Love the non-bias other than the other radio station, and I'm a Clemson fan. Well, Jared, as I said yesterday, you're going to get non-bias. Look, I'm a Clemson fan, too. I grew up a Clemson fan. I've been my entire life. However, it's our job, my job as a radio show host and sometimes journalist to call it like I see it and provide honesty. So I'm going to keep doing that, Jared. Appreciate you.
If you're listening to one of those biased radio stations today, what are they even talking about? That you can have going into your ear holes, processing through your brain, and not just have your BS meter going off like crazy.
Well,
there's not a lot of positives to take out of that game. I understand the second half. Your stars finally woke up, not talking about you, Victor Locken, not talking about you, Ian Shefflin. You had some of your stars, Chase Hunter and other guy, I can't blank on his name now. You had those guys come alive, right? And credit for the second half. But honestly, if what you're doing on those other radio stations is talking about how great 2 of your guys were in the second half of a loss to a 12 seed in the NCAA tournament, just hang up your headphones and go home for the day.
Well, it's one of the things when you talk about having realistic expectations. When you have realistic expectations and you see basketball, football, whatever it is for what it is, you're not going to be as disappointed with the outcome, because if you're truly analyzing what happened and you saw Clemson stumble down the stretch in the last few games, of the season and not be as crisp, and they couldn't shoot the basketball worth a flip in the last few games. If you are removing your glasses, you can see that. I can see that. People we talk to that cover Clemson who are very unbiased see that. Will Vandervoort's fantastic. Grayson Mann's fantastic. But you've got to cover it with the objective of being unbiased and being truthful, and not just trying to pump this team up to be the national champions. And again, ultimately, you've got to win in March, and they didn't.
Jaden Zachary, that was the name I couldn't pull out of the ether. He had a really good second half, but it doesn't matter because you lost the ball game. Taking a look around the day one biggest stars, I mean, you got to shout out a couple of these guys. And Brandon Murray from McNeese State, he had 21 points in his first day performance against Clemson. He averages 7.5 points. Brandon Murray came off the bench for McNeese State and scored 21 points. He deserves a tremendous amount of credit. Miles Kelly from Auburn, now they were playing Alabama State, so a little grain of salt in this, but he's a guy who averages 12 points a game. and scored 23 points against Alabama State. Chaz Lanier from Tennessee, shout out to him for his performance against Wofford. I know that stings, but he went 11 points over his season average. Kerwin Walton from Texas Tech against UNC Wilmington. He averages 6, scored 27. How do you game plan for a guy who averages 6 points a game and then goes out and scores 27 on you? Pharrell Payne from Texas Tech, he averages 10, scored 25 against Yale. Khalif Battle from Gonzaga, he averages 13, scored 24 against Georgia. So, it's worth mentioning those standout performances, guys that are playing well above themselves. And those are guys, Cole, I don't know, how many of these guys are seniors, how many of them have some eligibility. Those are the guys that start getting big-time offers to leave their school and go somewhere else. It's going to be hard to get Khalif Battle out of Gonzaga if he even has any eligibility left over, because that's a juggernaut of a program in and of itself. But are you telling me that if Brandon Murray has eligibility left, he's not going somewhere else next year? Because he will.
I do want to say one more thing, Diesel, concerning Wofford, Tennessee. We had the conversation a couple of days ago about a team like Chattanooga being the regular season champion, right, in the SoCon. Furman coming on late, being really hot, the hottest team, right? And then you have Wofford, who wins the tournament. Wofford, the only team that goes and gets in the NCAA tournament, obviously, with SoCon being a one-bid league. I am willing to say that I do believe Wofford represented the SoCon last night as good as anybody else would have. I mean, you're talking about a number 2 team, Tennessee, 28-7, who played in the SEC championship. Yeah, you can say Chattanooga was better during the regular season. Yeah, you can say Furman was better during the regular season. But Wofford went down and held their own. It was never a blowout. It was not a blowout at the end of the game. The scoreboard didn't reflect that. 77-62, obviously late. Tennessee, the ball was let out of the air a little bit. But I just want to say congrats to Wofford. I think they represented the SoCon as good as anybody could have in a very tough contest. When you're a 15 or a 16 seed, Diesel, you're going to get a tough draw. It doesn't really matter who you play. The opposition is going to be very, very good. And just hats off to Wofford. Hats off to Dwight Perry, man. There's a lot of people, me living in Spartanburg, there's a lot of people who questioned whether Dwight Perry was the right man. Like, there was some instability after Mike Young left, right? And they had a coach for a couple of years, and then Dwight Perry comes in, and Wofford, not who they were under Mike Young, but that's kind of unfair to talk about, right? But Dwight Perry's done a fantastic job, and he deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say that Chattanooga or ETSU or UNC Greensboro or even Furman would have played Tennessee any tougher than Wofford did. Any team out of the SoCon getting that draw would have been in a tight spot. They would have needed the 3-point shooting night that Dylan Bailey, Justin Bailey, and Jackson Seville's had against Furman in the SoCon championship to even stand a chance, because those 3 guys, they couldn't miss in that game against Furman in Asheville just a couple of nights ago. That's what they would have had to have to keep it close against Tennessee. Then again, we don't know if Tennessee would have responded to that by kicking it into a higher gear and shutting them down. So yeah, the Wofford Terriers acquitted themselves well. It's going to be fun to see what happens with them in the years to come.
Kane on the YouTube stream says, nice to see the Rob Brown Show at the top of the leaderboard. The Rob Brown Show is not at the top of the leaderboard. There's one person who listens to the Rob Brown Show, so don't take credit. Don't do that SEC thing there, Kane, that South Carolina fans do. Don't do that. They're at the top of the leaderboard. You're not. We're not chanting SEC here, Kane. They, whoever Calm Down Liberob is, if we could find that out, and they put, their real name or a little initial or something so we know who to give credit to, they're at the top for now. But don't you go riding their coattails like South Carolina does in the SEC, Kane. Don't you do that.
Kane, where are you on this leaderboard? I just ran a search for Kane on this thing, and I don't see you at all. I don't even see you on the leaderboard at all. Did you even put together a bracket, Kane?
Don't come at us. Don't do it.
Yeah.
These are not going to stand our ground. Look, it's still early. Rob Brown, one person that has TRBS may win, and congratulations to him. But you know what? It's awesome for them to be able to.
We got Drewtopia, Atolo, and Smith Head 67 Atolo in second place.
Yeah,
only 10 points behind. So there's a lot of basketball left to play here, baby.
And wait till Duke loses. I mean, Calm Down Liberal
well,
has Duke.
If Duke loses,
Everybody.
the majority of Tolos are just going to stop watching, or the majority of college basketball fans are just going to stop watching because I know they got picked a lot to win the national championship.
All right, we will look back at the games that are going on right now. I guess not look back. We will take a look at the games happening right now. It is a March Madness Friday. So much madness to come your way. We have Grayson Mann of TigerNet to kind of recap what happened almost 24 hours later. Joining us at 4 o'clock. We'll get into Brad Brunell at 4:20. Daily Wires 5:45. So much more basketball coming your way on a basketball March Madness heavy show. We'll take a look at what's happening. We want to hear from you in the very next segment. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate. I'm on the other side today, Tolos. For those of you watching the stream, I know the background may look a little different. Shout out to JJ, who's training behind the train today, doing a fantastic job getting the train in motion. Shout out to him for that. Diesel is fixing our TVs because we have several screens in here, but it's very important that we have the games on that we want to watch. So, in order to keep you updated on what's happening, we've got what game we have on now, Diesel? Is that the
We just put on Colorado State, Baylor. Colorado State leads 61-54.
Who'd you have in that one?
9 minutes to play. I have Colorado State, Memphis. I have Memphis winning this game.
See, I have Colorado State, so I need Colorado State. Let's take a look at what's happening. We will get to the phone lines in just a second, but I want to let you know that you can chime in at 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. That's the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. The phone lines are open as well. Happening right now, Diesel just mentioned Colorado State, Memphis. Colorado State leads 64-54, a 10-point lead all of a sudden. So that's big. Official TV timeout, 8:29 to go. A lot of people had Memphis making a little bit of a run, so we'll see. That could throw a wrench in things, Diesel. That game ongoing right now. Duke leads Mount St. Mary's 44-24, a 20-point lead in the first half for the Duke Blue Devils. That game's probably over, right? Is it safe to say?
I mean, we need to implement some sort of a run rule for NCAA.
Mercy rule,
games.
right?
Yeah, mercy
rule.
And it only works in 16-1 and 15-2 matchups.
St. Mary's and Vanderbilt is underway. Vandy, the 10 seed. St. Mary's, the 7 seed. Vandy leads 11-9. Let's see. Games that have gone final. We have 3 games. Alabama defeated Robert Morris 90-81. Iowa State defeated Lipscomb 82-55. Diesel. Baylor defeated Mississippi State 75-22. So in terms of favorites today, Iowa State was the favorite. They won. Bama was the favorite. They won. Mm-hmm. Baylor was the 9. Mississippi State was the 8. I don't know, though, if Baylor was favored according to Vegas, but technically, according to the seeding, there has been one upset. A 9/8 is not, the biggest thing in the world. However, there has technically been one upset, so we'll keep you updated on those.
I really need Memphis to come back and win this one, Cole, because I had Memphis going on a little mini run and making it to the Sweet 16 where they would lose to Florida. But, man, when it comes to the bracket challenge, I'm going to lose out on a lot of points if Memphis cannot come back and make up this 10-point deficit.
Let's go to the phones. Who do we have?
Tim
wants to talk. Tim in Inman wants to talk a little basketball. What's up, Tim? You're on the air. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. JJ doing a great job putting you on the air as well. Tim, what do you have to say, man?
I'll tell you what, I might change my name to Tim every
Kev. That's Kev.
I can recognize your voice from a mile away.
Yes, Kev. What's up? Sorry about that.
I'll be Tim in certain situations.
Well,
I ain't mad at
let me give Kev.
Might work out.
Let me give Kev his flowers here, Diesel. Kev is a longtime listener. He's a fantastic Tolo, and Kev called Clemson getting upset in the first round. So, Kev, I am going to give you your flowers on this Friday.
Man, do you really blame it on the coach, or do you blame it on the 5-12 matchup, bro?
I blame it on the coach. I blame it on the coach. When one player doesn't show up, that's something personal. But when nobody shows up for the entire first half, and two out of your 4 big stars who are still left on your team still don't show up in the second half, that's on coaching. He did not have this team prepared to play.
So, Kevin, I'll give you my answer real quick before I let you go. I do put some of it on the coach. I don't put this game 100% on Brad Brownell. If we're looking at a pie chart, I'm going to put blame on Brad Brownell without a doubt. He's the head coach. The buck stops with him. However, I don't put the entirety of the loss on him. I would put maybe 50%, maybe 60% of the loss on him, maybe 45. I haven't really somewhere from 40 to 60 in terms of the loss being on him. However, when you have guys that are cold as ice, I don't put that on him. I mean, Chase Hunter not being existent in the first half and Ian Shefflin just looking lost. I don't put all of that on him. I do put some of it on him, but I don't put the entirety of the loss on him. What about you?
Yeah. I like 13 points in the first half. I feel like us three, Rob and Zoe can go out there and put 13 points up in the first half of a college basketball game.
You would think, right?
Like, you would think anyway.
We might give up. We might give up 60, but we can score 13.
It might be 85 to 20, but I'm telling you right now, we gonna put up more than 13 points. Cause see, I'm gonna get hot anyway in the last 5 minutes. Cause I know second half I'm dead. So I need to go ahead and get hot anyway and see if we can get at least 16 points. But them 13, like you wasn't ready. You thought you was about to come out and just blow these boys out and send them home. But no, you got to think about the 5-12 matchups, look at that kind of thing, and then look like I'm going on that before I do anything else as a coach. Like, look, 39 out of 39 5-12 matchups, 33 of them have been won by the 12.
It's a good stat. So
You
if
know
you
what
had
I'm
Kev, if you had a pie chart, you're a big sports guy. If you had a pie chart and you had to place blame on the loss, how much would you put on Brad, and how much would you put on the players themselves?
I'm going 70-30, coach.
Okay.
Because I see you every day. If don't nobody else look at film, you looking at film.
Okay.
You know what you playing against. You know what you got going. You can see these other players better than your team can see them.
Okay.
So that's the first thing we got to start with is getting them ready.
Yeah.
You didn't have them ready, especially in the first half. You had them ready the last 2-3 minutes of the game. Other than that, they would know where to be in the building.
I want to ask one more question. We got to run, but I want to ask one question, Kev. What did Brad Brownell, and I'm not calling you wrong, but how did Brad have them ready in the last few minutes, but not in the first few minutes? What do you mean? I don't understand that.
Because you went this whole game and not played like you played grab butt basketball for a total of 38 minutes.
Yeah, but you played football, Kev. You played the game. You were really good. You know, at some point Brad Brownell can't go make shots, Kev.
He can't make shots, but you can call a timeout and keep. If I use all my timeouts early, I'm going to reiterate every time how much we got to grit and play every time. If I use all of them, and the rest of the time we just got to play and listen to my mouth. But you're going to get it. You got to get it. It's either that or we're gonna be like we are sitting at the house.
I'm with
so
you.
we got to get it.
I'm with you.
Thank you, Kev.
Really good call, Kev.
They got it.
Really good call, man. Appreciate
Good stuff.
you, buddy.
Talk soon.
Kev, man, he's always the
Hey,
best.
Brad Brownell gets paid $4 million a year to know what to do if his players can't snap out of it. That's his job. That's what he gets paid for.
Sometimes you just can't. You can't make players make shots. Is all I'm saying.
On the other side of the break, we will talk to Grayson Mann of TigerNet.com. We had him on very briefly at halftime of the game yesterday. He was in a state of bewilderment. Let's see how he's feeling about it today. We'll get that firsthand commentary from Providence next on the Fan Upstate. Set to be joined here momentarily by Grayson Mann of TigerNet.com. He was there on location in Providence yesterday. He witnessed that hate crime that McNeese State unleashed on Clemson in the first half.
I like the grid on the stream.
You feeling it?
That looks a lot better than the.
We can kind of move things around. We can try some things.
Are you going to start putting some video clips for us to watch in there as well?
Unfortunately, Cole, I've tried this before. Number one, you have to have all the right licenses, and you have to have the sourcing for that kind of stuff. But also, the software, man, it makes you put it in a PowerPoint presentation first. It's so weird. Welcome to the stream. You got inundated in something you didn't know you were a part of. Grayson Mann joins the show here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. He is still sitting in the Providence airport trying to make his way home to the upstate of South Carolina. Grayson, it's been a little less than 24 hours here since Clemson took it on the chin, lost in the 5-12 matchup. Who's harder on these players, and who has been harder on these players over the last 24 hours? The entire weight of Clemson fandom, which I'm sure is in their mentions everywhere, or these players themselves, because they certainly expected themselves to perform a lot better than this.
I think that last night we spoke to Chase Hunter, and just the emotion in the locker room was pretty palpable. It was just, I think, more shocked than anything was that it's almost like you just had some like traumatic event happen. You're like, did that just really take place? Did that really happen? And so Chase Hunter, we asked him just sort of what happened. We're trying to get to the bottom of this. And he described it as he didn't do a good job himself of rallying the troops when McNeese really started to throw punches at this group, saying, I needed to get the guys ready. We were entering a dogfight, and I wasn't well prepared enough to get these guys rolling, which I think was honestly pretty shocking to me, given the scope of this event and everything that had gone into this. I really do think the writing was on the wall in the Louisville game. It sort of followed a similar script where the offense just really couldn't get going, and you have a rally late, and it's just a little too late to get really things going. And the difference ended up being 2 points in a game where Clemson shot 6 of 26 in that first half. And I was able to talk to you guys at halftime, and just the pure shell shock that I think fans, media, and I think the players to an extent too felt on that court in Providence.
Grayson, we always appreciate you hopping on with us, even if it is from an airport. We have had a lot of discussion yesterday. We're going to continue to talk about it in the next segment, but the story here is who's to blame, right? I have said I do put a little bit of blame on Brad Brownell. I don't put the entirety of the loss on Brad, but when you talk about a player in Chase Hunter, Grayson, who didn't score in the first half, and then Ian Shefflin, who scored a point, right? Pretty much a meaningless point in a basketball game where you need Shefflin and Hunter to step up. Where do you place blame? Because blame has to be placed. Where do you place it?
I think naturally a lot of people are going to go to Brad Brownell about this. And I think two things can be true at once. I think that a lot can be put on the coaching, but at the same time, your two best players necessarily didn't show up when it really counted. I mean, Ian Shefflin and Chase Hunter, the duo that fans were going to be focused on all season, had one combined point with about 10 minutes to go in this game. And so when you look at that group and all the expectations that surrounded it, yeah, you can look towards Brownell and this coaching staff about how do you not get these guys ready? Where do you sort of change philosophy here, where you start out 0 of 8 from three-point land? Do you try to get a little more focus inside? It just felt like this McNeese group had every answer and just was able to pass every test. And they were the ones that were hunting Clemson. That was sort of a unique storyline that I think got sort of thrown under the rug, was how does Clemson handle being the team that isn't going to surprise people anymore, where you have a lot of people picking them to go to the Final Four, Elite Eight, Sweet 16. McNeese was hunting them, and they probably understood that this might be their last bout with Will Wade, who is reportedly taking the job at NC State. The paper hasn't been signed on the dotted line yet, but that's all the indications. So I think it's just a matter of this group got caught by surprise, and whether that's a coaching thing or just the lack of, I think, potential barking and leadership. Because you look at last year's group of the Elite Eight, guys like Joe Girard, PJ Hall, they'd get on your butt. They'd scream. They'd be fist pumping after an and one. This just group didn't really have that in my mind. There wasn't really a alpha voice speaking out going, we need to get things going. It was a lot of quiet voices. And when you pair that with a more low key head coach, it just, in that kind of moment, you just can see the writing on the wall.
Grayson, when you are critical of coaching, I think it comes down to two very fundamental parts: preparation and in-game adjustments. And Cole brought this earlier. He said he had heard from multiple coaches who had lost games and said that the zone really kind of put them in a tight spot. And I can't fathom that Clemson is not prepared to see the zone. Maybe they don't see it a lot in ACC play because you just got so many talented athletes that you don't run the zone very often. But these are all players who have played, 15, 20 years playing basketball. You've got coaches who have 25, 30 years of experience coaching basketball. To say that they didn't prep these guys for the zone, to me is inexcusable. And that's why you go back and watch McNeese film and see how much zone they run. On top of that, in-game adjustments. I mean, I look at the last probably 4 minutes of that game, maybe closer to 3 minutes of that game, and there were multiple McNeese State possessions where Clemson allowed them to get down to under 5 seconds on the shot clock and still make shots at the end of those possessions. Those are things that to me are just critical errors to not push them to get the ball up early. Are there any little moments that you look at and say, okay, that and that and that in the totality add up to something big?
I always think the first 6 minutes are really important, especially in a tournament game where you're sort of trying to figure things out. You're in a different location, different gym. And it felt like McNeese really came out with an emphasis and an urgency. And you saw that in the first few sets where I think, with action to get one of their post players up, and then they ended up alley-oop dunking, and the crowd's all fired up. You're sort of settled in. Excuse the Delta announcement that we're getting in the middle of this flight. But in that same sense, like, you guys can still hear me, I hope, right?
Yeah.
If you have to go catch your flight and let go of us, we
No,
understand. We don't want you missing your flight.
I've been here for another 2 hours. I think they're just intercomming over see, I got to be prepared. I was thrown off by that guy, so that's on me. But I think that McNeese came out and it was sort of brilliant. I think that's what we're going to see from Will Wade if he does indeed joining NC State, is he's able to throw so many different things at you. And it threw Clemson off. You could tell with that zone package where that first look, Clemson was sort of unsure of where to go. And I thought they were going to try to get Chauncey Wiggins set up early, and they tried to get a corner 3 shot. And he ended up throwing that short. But I think the advantage of what we had with Clemson had with Dylan Hunter is if Chauncey chucks a couple shots out, Brownell sends them to the bench, and you're able to run Dylan for maybe 30, 32 minutes. So for this group, the margin for error for the Dill Joneses, the Jake Hybreeders, who is 7 of 35 from three-point land in the season, a total whiff on the portal for being completely blunt. Miles Foster, did he see the court maybe for more than 8 minutes last night? A total. I think that there are some players that Clemson had to rely on that had Hunter been, and I'm not trying to make excuses here, try to fly that out there, but I think the magnifying significance of Hunter, it was in the back of your mind last night, and it continued to creep up, especially as Clemson's offense just completely looked flat.
And Grayson, we've talked about that. I brought that up, leading into the tournament several weeks ago. What do you do if you're Clemson? I literally asked this question. What do you do if you're Clemson and you run up against a team in the tournament who has a guy off the bench go off, like what happened yesterday? What's your counter? It's not me being a great basketball mind. It's simple. Clemson doesn't have the depth. They don't have the offensive explosiveness on the bench, and that's exactly what happened in the first half. What does that say about where Brad Brownell is and what he will do in the future with recruiting a little bit deeper of a team?
Yeah, I think you're going to have to go hunt in the portal once again, and Clemson's going to have to replace 3 or 4 starters, depending on that waiver for Jaden Zachary that's sort of been floating around ends up falling through. My gut tells me no, that you're going to have to prepare for life without him, just with how stingy those waiver processes tend to be. And from what I've heard, it's not likely he will be returning, and that waiver won't be granted. So you're going to have to not only rebuild this entire core, you're going to have to find some bench players that can competently come off the group. I mean, Cole Diesel, you can tell me, what was your sort of confidence level when you're seeing Jake Hybreeder walk onto the scores table and check in? You're like, ooh, I don't know about this, guys. Or when Chauncey starts the way he does, it's just that the level of, I think, confidence from a fan base perspective, it just dipped. And when you have a start like that, it only regresses further. So the next few weeks are going to be interesting. What's going to be next for this group? What players are going to become available? Does this type of loss potentially hinder Clemson's star power that they've built up for the last 2 years? I think maybe that's not entirely fair to judge it off of one game when the body of work has been so strong otherwise. But you are remembered for what you do in the postseason, and this is going to be a stinker that many will remember for a while.
Well, on that front, Grayson, at least Clemson does seem to be aggressive in the NIL front. So it's easier to replenish when you're doing it not solely based on reputation and performance, but also on what you may be able to offer a star guy who's looking for a new home. I can say the one Pyrrhic victory for Clemson is hearing the emotion and the hurt in Victor Locken's voice in the post-game interview. The fact that after just one season at Clemson with Brad Brownell, he really cares that much. You could see that he was very emotional. That's promising for Clemson's future, the amount of buy-in that Brad's able to get from these players in a short period of time. Of those core of seniors that we just talked about, Shefflin, Locken, Hunter, possibly Jaden Zachary, if he doesn't come back to Clemson, what's next for those guys? Any chance that you project any of those guys have an opportunity to go play at the NBA level or maybe to go play overseas?
I think overseas is going to be an option for a lot of these guys. I think they're going to take a similar route to Gerard in that sense. And I think for Shefflin in particular, he's in a tough spot playing the 4 at a high level in the ACC, but he's not particularly quick enough to be a stretch forward in the NBA, not particularly big enough on the other end to probably be a 5 at the NBA level. So I think we'll expect to see a lot of these guys potentially getting summer league contracts. And so we'll be talking about them in July, watching them in Las Vegas. But I wouldn't project any of these guys as draft picks compared to the PJ Halls, where you could see if you got him on an NBA roster and the right coach, which you get him to Denver, who was able to develop Nikola Jokic so well, you're like, okay, you could see sort of the vision there. Something you mentioned, Diesel, is just the emotion. It sort of reminded you of Gerard's emotion last year in Los Angeles, where he's sobbing on the at the media availability for the post-game press conference, just pleading with anyone who would listen to come to play for Clemson. So people do pay attention, and they do see the success that guys like Locken, Zachary had. They had career years here at Clemson. And so for players who want to go to the NBA, want to sort of follow that same path, final year, tournament team, projected likely, it's an option that's a viable spot. And so there's a formula that's been built. You're just going to have to get a little bit more extra in that. You're going to have to get a little bit more meat on the bone for this team in 2026, but they're going to also have the resources, I believe, that are going to be able to fund that.
Grayson Mann, TigerNet.com, joining us as he is at the airport in Providence. You can follow him on Twitter on X at Gray_Man21. That's MANN. Grayson, I went back and watched the game last night because we were on air yesterday, and you obviously watched the game, but weren't able to focus on it as much as I would have liked to. Why was McNeese, when you're going up against a Clemson team that is seasoned under Brad Brownell, who has been there for a long time, why was McNeese the more athletic team yesterday? If you don't believe that to be the case, you can obviously disagree with me.
I think they were able to play their own brand of basketball. And Will Wade talked about that on Wednesday. And his availability, it was, we really got to make sure we manage Clemson's size in the post. And that translated to me as he sees that as an immediate problem. And when you look at the box score, you'd imagine that Locken and Shefflin got pushed around like paper yesterday. Wasn't even the same sort of team. And so I thought if Clemson could try to play a half-court game with McNeese, try to find a way through the post. But sometimes I think with the three-point shooting teams, you've seen it with Boston, you've seen it with Golden State and the NBA, that when you have some off shooting nights, you sort of believe you can shoot yourself out of it. And for Clemson, I felt like there were a lot of empty possessions where you almost have too good of a look and you're like, maybe you can make that extra pass in the post and try to get something going confidence-wise with your bigs. But you're also looking at that score going, we need some shots here. We need some threes versus some twos. And that's sort of where basketball is right now. And that's what I sort of felt in the second half. And that first 5-ish minutes where they're just sort of chucking up shots. And it's like you're getting sort of B- shots instead of the A+ shots that you're usually accustomed to. And when the ball movement for this team is moving, you can see the potential of a tournament team that can make a run. But when the ball stops and the fluidity sort of pauses, it's when you start to see the cracks in this offense. And we saw that in droves last night.
Grayson Mann of TigerNet.com. My last question for you here, Grayson. What do you know of Brad Brownell's process after taking a loss like this? I mean, you kind of have to go back to 2 years ago, the loss they took in the NIT. You know, what is Brad Brownell going to be doing for the next, week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Is he going to the beach to decompress, or is he going to be, holed up in his office watching a lot of film trying to figure out exactly what went wrong?
I think it's probably going to be the latter. I don't think any vacation is in store for Brad Brownell anytime soon. And he talked about it last year after the Elite Eight. He just mentioned how tired he was, is that they immediately went on the road trying to recruit, trying to get some transfer guys. And I think this year the urgency is only more amplified with the roster you're going to be returning. And nothing is for certain with the players on the roster, as as you guys well know. In this era, everything's a 1-year contract at this point, and we're just sort of being honest with that. Is players can leave at the drop of a hat when the right money is thrown in that direction. So they're going to have to do some work, and Brownell and this staff are going to have to go out there and really push it when they're trying to replace some guys. Because do you think Asa Thomas, Dallas Thomas, Ace Buckner, is that group ready to necessarily contribute yet? Based off of this year, I don't think so. Do you think that the next transfer class in, the Zach Fosters, the Trent Steiners, the Chase Thompsons, are they ready to contribute? Based off of Brownell's history of freshmen, I wouldn't necessarily count on it. So I think for this group, it's going to have to be busy in the portal, and there's going to be there's already a lot of talented players. There's a guy from Nevada that Clemson's talked to, a 15 points per game scorer that has a lot of promise, but there's also going to be a lot of competition. North Carolina, St. John's, Duke, they've been talking to him too. So it's just a matter of where this group's headed. Brownell's probably not booking a flight to Cabo anytime soon.
Grayson, and I guess my last one for you to kind of piggyback off of that. A lot of frustration yesterday and last night from Clemson fans regarding Brad Brownell and the timing of his extension. It stinks, right? That's all. That's the only way I can describe it, right? It being a little sour. I classify Brad Brownell as a good coach, and those that I talk to, who are college basketball coaches and are in the know when it comes to the sport, they are so high, and they give much praise to Brad Brownell. So it looks as if Brad Brownell will be sticking around Clemson for several more years, 3 to 5, 6 years, right, based on that new extension that he got. But where do you think Clemson fans are and should be on their feelings toward Brad? Because, let's go back in the past. 6 years ago, there was a big drought. He didn't make the tournament for a long time. Last year, he lead 8. This year, first-round exit. And some of those ill feelings toward Brownell are resurfacing. Is that unfair for Clemson fans in your mind to feel that way?
And I put this out on Twitter this morning just because I had to take some time to sort of decompress, talk to a couple folks, and I said, if you took yourself back in time 2 years ago and Clemson had just lost to Morehead State in the NIT, and you had told them that in a 2-year stretch that Clemson would reach the Elite Eight and they would push that further with their best regular season in program history and add a tournament appearance. Yes, the context is that tournament appearance was rather ugly, but I think a lot of Clemson fans, given the success of the program at the time, they'd probably sign up for that. And I think Clemson basketball in the last 18 months have almost become a victim of their own success. If that maybe it's not necessarily fair, and it's like if the standard's raised, the standard should be staying that way. But I think in terms of where this group is at versus where they were 2 years ago, I think they're a pretty good spot. And I'm in the camp that I think more success is on the way. I've written extensively on TigerNet that there's a formula here for Brad Brownell to build. That's going to be put to the ultimate test this offseason. But I do think he's found something that will work. And next year's going to be a big year. And whether that's another tournament appearance or whatever the future has in store, I think that Brownell has earned the benefit of the doubt for the most part. But I do think the frustration from last night is incredibly fair. So it's sort of like I'm not trying to eat my cake and eat it too in this answer, but I think a lot of fans are fair to be frustrated, but at the same time, let's not wipe away 2 years of what he's been able to achieve with this program based off of one game. We just saw Kansas lose yesterday, who hasn't lost a first-round game in decades. So it's just sort of how the cookie crumbles with this tournament.
Grayson, we appreciate you. You're the best. Safe travels coming home. I'll be at Clemson tomorrow for the baseball game. It'd be great if you swung. No, look, you've worked enough. You get a day off, right? TigerNet giving you a day off. I think you should. I think the grind doesn't stop, gentlemen. So probably tomorrow. I love that. I love it. We'll see. We'll see if I see Grayson Mann tomorrow. Grayson, we appreciate you as always. Grayson Mann, TigerNet.com. Always a fantastic interview, and you definitely need to check out his work on TigerNet.com. Let's expound on that. Let's get into that a little bit deeper because I want to discuss Brad Brownell in the very next segment, Diesel. There's something to be said with what Grayson just brought up with one of the greatest coaches in the game with Bill Self, right? First-round exits do happen. If this first-round exit had happened and this was Brad's second year, we wouldn't be making a big deal of this. However, the past and the lack of success in the past is why we're having this conversation. So, Clemson fans, we want to hear from you regarding Brad Brownell in the very next segment. 844-FAN phone, 844-326-3776. 3663. It is the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line. The phone lines are open as well. He's Diesel, I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate. Keeping it rolling in our number 2 of the program. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. Shout out to JJ, who you can see on the stream as well in training, doing a killer job running this gravy train on this Friday edition of Wire to Wire. Some updates, some games have gone final as we are keeping you updated as much as we can. You told me Memphis, Colorado State. Oh, yeah, 78-70. How about that? Colorado State takes down Memphis. So there's an upset.
At this point, Cole, it's kind of how low can I go in the overall standings. I am 4th from last, and I'm not including the one Tolo who signed up but didn't make any picks.
You know what, Diesel? It's a 12-5.
Yep.
12-5.
Yep.
What do you say? 12-5. I mean, there's something. I didn't believe in that at first. But now I believe it.
It's real, dude.
It is real. There's something to
We've
be said
had
about
2 12-5 matchups in this. And I think it's because a lot of the times the 5, you get the middle of the pack power conference teams, and then you get the really good mid-majors.
It's fun,
like
man.
the best mid-majors get 12 seeds, and that's where you get yourself in these situations where you can lose. And
So 4 games have gone final today. Alabama defeated Robert Morris 90-81. Iowa State just trounced Lipscomb 82-55. Colorado State defeated Memphis 78-70.
Lipscomb, more like Ponscomb.
Yeah, no kidding. Terrible. And then Baylor, the one game I've gotten wrong today, defeated Mississippi State 75-72. Current games, we have 1, 2, 3. Duke is narrowly defeating Mount St. Mary's 61-32.
Ooh.
Close game, right?
Barn burner.
Upset alert.
Yeah.
Da-da-da, da-da-da. Vanderbilt is leading St. Mary. Is that no? That's not Mount St. Mary's. So St. Mary's is playing Vandy. Mount St. Mary's is playing Duke. Vandy leading St. Mary's without the Mount at 29-22. And then Ole Miss, a fantastic start offensively. 26-14, Ole Miss on top of North Carolina. Did you pick Ole Miss?
I did pick Ole Miss.
That's a good pick.
In this game, I got Ole Miss. This might be my saving grace calls. I've got them making the Sweet 16, losing to Michigan State.
I like that.
In the Sweet 16 matchup. But I'm going to need some of my big picks to start paying off. And I'm watching Ole Miss, just kind of catching highlights. As you know, we're hosting a live radio show. It's hard to keep a close eye on everything. But they're getting the ball down low, kind of playing a 2-man game, moving it from outside of the 3-point arc inside, and they're bullying North Carolina, knocking these dudes out of the way. I mean, just looking at them when the camera pans out wide enough to see the entire court, Ole Miss just looks bigger. They're bigger dudes.
You know, I originally picked Ole Miss the morning of the tournament. Yesterday morning, I changed my pick to North Carolina. I changed it, and it doesn't look good.
I know that you were kind of all over changing your brackets leading into this challenge. I only changed one, and unfortunately, the one that I changed to, I would have had the correct answer. I originally picked Drake over Missouri.
Yeah,
and changed my mind, and I picked Missouri over Drake in my final bracket, the one that I submitted, and ultimately that came back to me. Not that it would help me, because I went 8 of 16 on day one, and so far I am 3-1.
So Diesel, here is where I am, and again the phone lines are open at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's FANFONE. The Hub City Spartanburgers text line open at the same number. Diesel, here's where I am on Brad Brownell. Just a little background so the Tolos know. During that stretch where Brad Brownell went on that epic drought, right? What was it, 6 years without a tournament appearance, something like that. I was hosting a Saturday morning sports show at another station in the upstate, and I was the biggest Brad Brownell hater you have ever met in your life. I was ready for him to be gone. Every Saturday morning, we woke up and we called for Brad to be gone. I couldn't stand him.
How much did he pay you to change your mind?
Did
you find out you two are secretly related? Is that the other little shoe that's going to drop?
Well, listen, I don't know that it's tough. Here's where I am. When you talk about changing your mind, Diesel, I may have allowed myself to do the same thing that Clemson fans have done. Now, I want to be very clear. I do think Brad Brownell is a very good coach. I do. I think he's a very good coach. I think he knows basketball and the X's and O's is just about as good as anybody. I really do. I've heard so much from people in the game who respect Brad Brunell to the T and talk so highly of him. And I do think he's a very good coach. However, you fast forward all these years later, 2025, where he made an Elite Eight. That was awesome. And I'm not saying don't celebrate that, but maybe that allowed some of the fans to put the negativity to bed in a way, Diesel, maybe myself included. I just think when you look at what I said going into the break, if Brad Brunell took the job 3 years ago, lost to Morehead State in the NIT, right? That year they were a tournament team but didn't make it in. The next year, Elite Eight. The next year, one and done. If this were year 3, going into year 4, you and I would be sitting here today thinking, man, this guy's
They found a good one.
They found a good one. It's off to a really good start, right? They found a good coach. However, that's not the case, right? He has had, Diesel, many, many years before that of unsuccessful postseasons and not making the postseason. So when you compartmentalize what Brad Brunell has done in these last 4 years, you think, man, he's at the top of the game, one of the best, top 10, top 15 coaches, a really good coach, knows the game. And all of a sudden, with the addition of the portal, he has really evolved. Mm-hmm. However, Diesel, what you cannot do is you cannot snap your fingers and remove all of the bad where he did not have the postseason success. And I think that is what makes this conversation so hard, so difficult to be had.
Well, it does take a long time to change reputation, right? Think about it in football. Think about it in any sport before NIL. It would take coaches their entire tenure somewhere, potentially, to change course and to take a program that hadn't normally had a ton of success and start just slowly stacking it up. And then you've got to be, not only you've got to be a good enough coach to do that, to have this kind of linear growth from 15 wins a season to 18 wins to 19 wins to 20 wins to making deep runs in your conference tournament to getting into the NCAA tournament. That was that ladder that you try to climb as a coach. Most times coaches don't get that kind of tenure anymore to even try to go on runs like that. It's a win now kind of sport. But also now that NIL is in big play, and if you've got certain programs that are really investing in it, it's expected that you're able to turn that thing around quicker. But the problem is you're not doing it by building loyalty and by building brand. You're just doing a great job of convincing a kid, hey, we can rent you for a year. I can do good things with you. I can help develop your game, and hopefully you'll stick around and stay here. But I can't make you stay here. You may go off to Duke next year, or North Carolina, or Kansas, or wherever. And it's a tough spot to be in. It is really difficult to change, a generational perception of what your basketball program is. And the generational perception of Clemson basketball ain't good. They are a C-level program over the course of their tenure. And I'm not talking about just Brad Brownell's time there. I'm talking about Oliver Purnell's time there. I'm going back, 20, 30, 40 years. They have been a C-level program, and it is difficult to change that. And any kid who might want to play in the ACC, well, they're thinking, I want to go to Duke first. I want to go to North Carolina second. I want to go to Virginia third.
North Carolina now, but
well, maybe not now, but I'm talking last 10 years.
Yeah.
And then, maybe Wake Forest, and then it's Clemson. So you're like the 5th or 6th best choice for kids who say, no matter what, I want to go play in the ACC.
You know what's interesting? I watched that game again last night and wrote some things down. I do think if you clip the last 3 years, the last 4 years, I think Brad Brunell has established himself as one of the top teams in the ACC. However, if I look for red flags, I saw red flags last night. And I want to know from you Clemson fans out there if you agree or disagree with me here. Brad Brunell is, for as good of a coach as he is, Diesel, he's not a fiery guy. He's not a guy, he's more cerebral, right? He's not a guy that motivates his team like a rah-rah guy. So when you talk about motivation and you talk about slow starts, I don't know. I'm going to be very transparent. I don't know if that factors into slow starts. However, I pick up on things like that, like the fact that I thought McNeese was more athletic than Clemson was. The recruiting, the way his bench, or the lack of bench, is modeled, because I talked about it earlier, Brownell's in a tough spot, Diesel, when he has to go to his bench and his 1 and 2, they're having an off day, and he can't rely on anybody from the bench to bring anything offensively to the table. And then the last thing I'll say is, I think Brad Brownell, for as good of a coach as he is, I think that he has a style. I think he has a style, and I think he recruits players from talking to other people who know Brad Brownell and have had players go play for Brad Brownell. He recruits guys that fit his style and his mold. I'm not saying he needs to change the way he coaches. However, I have heard coaches like the former, Roy Williams at North Carolina and Coach K talk about this, where it is better to be a coach that goes and recruits the best players, and then when he has the best players, he molds them into a style that works that season. I always heard the best coaches in the game say, I'm not recruiting players to my style. I'm bringing guys in, and I'm going to mold them to what works best that year. I don't think Brad Brownell does that. I think Brad recruits to the style of which he has always had, and sometimes that style works, Diesel. Sometimes it doesn't. And when that style doesn't work, you get out-athleted. You have players who can't rebound and go up and be as strong in the paint, and that's what happened yesterday.
Well, you can't. You tapped it. It's like our brains are working together. It's like if we put our foreheads together, thoughts would move back and forth through osmosis. Because Brad Brownell, being a cerebral, more of a calm coach, you couldn't all of a sudden put like a Bobby Knight on coaching a Clemson team, because his fiery style doesn't work with the cerebral, calm, heady guys that Brad Brownell coached, that he recruited. He recruits guys that are like him. That way they can act as his surrogate on the court, right? And if he doesn't have to get fiery and get in their faces and grab them by the shirt collar and say, what the bleep are you doing? Because he expects the guys that he recruits to do that for him. He wants them to take the accountability and be that fiery leader on the court. Now, I don't know if anybody else clocked this, but I did. Midway through the first half of that game yesterday, Cole, and it was to the point where it was, already starting to feel like, whoa, McNeese State came out on fire. Clemson's getting a little slow start, but it's okay. They'll figure it out. They're probably down 8, 9, 10 points early in the first half of that game, and they come back from commercial break. And I see Brad Brownell just standing there, just chuckling, talking to the referee like, hey, Bob, did you see that episode of Seinfeld they showed on TV last night? Man, that was funny. That was good stuff. It just felt like Brad wasn't locked into the game, and maybe that's part of what took them so long to get locked in the second half. He wasn't. He was hanging back, waiting for his players. Right, he's hanging back, waiting for his players to step up and lead themselves. And he's back here just chuckling it up with the referees.
I think the team played nervous. I think the team in the first half was nervous. I think Shefflin, Hunter, and a few other cast of characters in the first half were out of their norm. They didn't look like themselves. They seemed a little timid. And when you're in an NCAA tournament game, the last thing you can do, or the last thing you can be, is nervous. The last thing you can be is timid. The last thing you can be is scared. And I don't care if McNeese comes out with a team manager and a boombox, and the whole state and the whole Northeast can hear it. I don't care how intimidating McNeese is coming out of the tunnel, and I don't care how much of it has to do with Will Wade. Your job is to go perform. And again, I do think Brad Brownell is a good basketball coach, but I'll end this segment. We'll get back into this weeks and months to come. But Diesel, when it all boils down to it, I do think Brad Brownell is a very good coach. I don't think Brad Brownell ever takes Clemson and gets them over the hump in terms of being a national perennial powerhouse. Brad Brownell has improved Clemson basketball, and I think he will continue to improve them. But I think Brad Brownell's ceiling at Clemson is where they've been the last 2 years. I don't think consistently with Brad you're going to be able to go have a St. John's type season where Rick Pitino lifts them from the grave and has this historic run. He's a great coach, or he's a very good coach in my mind. I don't think he's a great coach. I think the last 2 years, Brad Brownell has hit his ceiling at Clemson. The ceiling that he has hit, it's a fun ceiling. It's great. Elite Eight, tournament appearance the next year. But I do think this is his ceiling.
Well, they'll never have a Pitino style of coach until, number one, they're willing to invest at or above an SEC level. I mean, Chris Beard, who's coaching right now for Ole Miss, he's making $5 million a year. Brad Brownell's making $3.5 million. You put yourself in a different class of coaches when you're willing to pay another $1.5 million more than your brethren across the street or adjacent to your conference. So that's a big deal. Number two, Clemson's fan base. We've talked about it on this station for a long, long time, Cole. The expectation, not the hope, but the expectation should be making the NCAA tournament more often than not. And Brad Brownell, now getting a 6-year contract extension, going to be north of $4 million in a couple of years. The expectation now needs to become make the NCAA tournament almost every year.
Almost every year.
Four out of 5. I mean, it needs to be 4 out of
if
5.
He's there 5 more
at
years,
least.
You say 4 out of 5?
It needs to be 4 out of 5.
I'm with you there.
And you got a fan base who is kind of, they've been kicked a lot over the past 30 years of Clemson basketball. And to them, making the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row, even though this year was an embarrassing early exit, over time, once the sting of that embarrassment washes away or fades away, they're going to say, well, at least we made the NCAA tournament, right? Yeah. They're going to be able to hang an NCAA tournament appearance banner at Little John Coliseum, and they'll say, oh, isn't that great? We made the NCAA tournament that year. But eventually you got to get to a point where early exits, round of 64 exits to a 12 seed should become unacceptable.
No, that's not good. Real quick, a couple of texts. Texter from the 616 says the fact that Brownell is still the coach after this many years shows the lack of importance Clemson places on the sport. I'm a Tennessee fan and love Barnes' character, but if the Vols blow out before an Elite Eight appearance, I think it's time for retirement and a younger coach. JT and Greer says Clemson had a barn burner problem. Was their own barn? JT and Greer, funny. 820 says Cole hit the nail on the head. I don't know which part you're referring to. I'm sorry, we did go a little over in that segment, but again, good coach. He's not going to get you to the next level. He's to his credit, he has taken the program from here to here. I don't think he's the guy to take him to the next level, Diesel.
When we come back, let's hit our daily wires, our whip around the sports world. See what else is happening out there. We've definitely had the old horse blinders on. We're not looking to see what's going on our left or our right. We're just looking straight ahead at the NCAA tournament. But we will take those off, take a peek around, and then jump right back into tournament coverage in the 5 o'clock hour. our eagle-eyed Tolos who are keeping an eye on the ESPN Men's Tournament Challenge that I am doing terribly in right now, by the way, have looked at Calm Down Liberob's bracket. Calm Down Liberob, currently in first place with 200 points, has a perfect bracket to this point. He picked North Carolina to beat Ole Miss.
So did I, by the way.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
Ole Miss is currently leading this game. Just went to commercial break. Let me hit refresh here, get the actual live score. Ole Miss is leading this game 41-23. So
let me say
going to
this
need
real
a
quick.
big comeback from North Carolina.
I'm glad. Okay, I'll wait till 5 o'clock. We gotta get there. I'll wait. Remind me of the 5 o'clock segment to talk about this. Don't let me forget. JJ, new trainer, doing a great job producing today. He's training. Don't let me, Diesel, JJ, forget. 5 o'clock segment, North Carolina. All right, sorry, Daily Wires, right?
Let's get to our Daily Wires. This is the buzz around the sports world not involving the NCAA tournament right now. South Carolina Gamecock fans, you're going to rejoice about this. Wide receiver Nick Harbor has announced that he is putting track and field on the back burner and will focus all of his attention this spring on football.
That's good.
That is big. Nick Harbor, he came on strong in the second half of the season last year for the Gamecocks, but you could tell first half of the season he wasn't 100% in football shape or wasn't, 100% bought in, up to speed with everything. So that's going to be good for South Carolina on the season this year. We reported this yesterday, Cole, that Georgia wide receiver Nitro Tuggle had been arrested for speeding. Obviously, Georgia has a bit of a problem with that. Well, I saw a graphic earlier today that says since January 2023, Georgia has more arrests than wins. Georgia players have been arrested 25 times since January of 2023, and they have 24 wins.
That's pretty good.
In that
I like
same
that.
stretch. How about that? Cole, I kind of lied a little bit about the no NCAA basketball here, but it's worth pointing out that with St. John's and Arkansas both winning yesterday,
Yes.
we will get the long-awaited rematch of John Calipari and Rick Pitino in the round of 32.
Let's go.
This is awesome, Cole. It's so good to see this happening.
Saturday,
Tomorrow night. Cole, Conor McGregor has announced he intends to run for president of Ireland, advocating that the EU Migration Pact, advocating against the EU Migration Pact. I don't really know what that is because I don't follow European politics. He is currently appealing a civil case in which he was found liable for assault. We remember that from like 2 or 3 years ago. And he vows to give the people of Ireland a voice in shaping the country's future. So how about that? Conor McGregor could be the next president of Ireland. We'll see how that goes. I didn't know they had presidents in Ireland. I didn't really thought about what they called the leader of Ireland. Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher Paul Skeens. That's a lot of P's, a lot of alliteration there. Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher Paul Skeens. His one-of-a-kind baseball patch card, his rookie card, was sold for $1.11 million in a 2-week auction with 64 bids placed. The autographed card features a patch from Skeen's Major League debut and was purchased by an unidentified buyer. The proceeds from the sale will be donated to the LA Fire Relief Fund. That is excellent to see that money going to charity. Paul Skeen's salary in 2025, Cole, is not large enough to buy his own rookie card.
It will be soon. I'm telling you what, it's going to be ridiculous in a few years. What that
He's going to make as of right now, he's got to let Livy Dunn pick up some of his extra bills, right? Because she's making more money than he is.
One more for you. Close game alert. Diesel, can you give me the close game alert sounder? What that sounds like in your head? Close game alert. That's perfect. South Carolina Lady Gamecocks. Tennessee Tech at halftime.
Uh-oh.
South Carolina 60. Tennessee Tech 27.
Oh,
I lied.
Oh, baby. You had me going there for a
60
second.
to 27. Dawn Staley reportedly just in. Dawn Staley has put me in the game. So I'm starting the second half.
To be fair, looking down their box scores over the season, a 33-point halftime advantage is close for the South Carolina Lady Gamecocks.
Score a point against Tennessee Tech in the second half.
Against Tennessee Tech.
In an entire second half, you think I could score? Just jack up 1
No
3
way.
and it go.
No
These-
way.
I
You'd
could
get
score
swatted.
one.
You'd get swatted. I know you run a 5.2 40.
No, I could score
with that
one.
little U next to it because it means unofficial.
I
But
just
there's
chunk
no
it up
chance.
and go in eventually.
No
Are
chance.
you
You'd be
kidding
like
me?
Philip Seymour Hoffman going rain dance and then just smack one off the backboard.
All right, Tolos, we continue the conversation. Hour number 3 of the show. What could be this weekend in the sports world with the round of 32 tomorrow? And we want to hear from you, Tolos. The stream lighting up right now. We continue the conversation and check on who's winning right now in the March Madness tournament. That is next. And JJ, our producer right now, who's training, should have filled out a bracket because he's killing it today, Diesel. And maybe if he filled out a bracket, he'd be doing better than you and I. I've missed one, maybe 2 games already today.
Yeah, I've let's see, what did I miss? I missed the Memphis Colorado State game. I missed today. I missed let's see.
I think 2.
Yeah, well,
Did you pick?
see. I picked Texas going on a run and at least winning the round of 32 game, round of 64
You've
game.
only missed 1 so far.
So I've only missed one so
you're
far,
good.
but I've got an automatic miss when it comes to the Illinois Xavier game because I had Texas beating Xavier in
It's
the
all
play-in.
right. It's okay.
So, God, this is not the
good.
year for me. I can't be perfect at everything. I was
No, you
great.
can't.
I was great in the upset picks challenge. I am terrible in this.
You can't be perfect. That's right. Not in everything you can. You got to choose, pick and choose. Welcome into Wire to Wire Tolos, hour number 3 of the show. He's Diesel that you just heard. I'm Cole Bryson. You can listen to the show 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, 97.7 FM in Greenville. The free Odyssey app is fantastic as well. It's free, Free. Download the app, AUDACY. You can also watch the stream live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. JJ is in the middle. Diesel and I are on the outside, and he's rocking and rolling. JJ, hit the mic 1 over there and turn yourself on for a minute and introduce yourself. Sing us a song. Can you sing, JJ?
I do karaoke sometimes.
Oh, JJ.
Jagged Edge is one of my favorite songs.
JJ's a karaoke man.
JJ's also a club DJ.
He is a
and
DJ.
JJ is working tonight
At the Pump House.
at the Pump House.
Home
There you
of the
go.
Furman when they come through. So maybe
So-
some of Furman students will come through after their laws. I'm a comedian sometimes too.
Oh.
Oh, boy, JJ letting them fly. We used to go to Pump House was like the only thing around when I went to North Greenville. And that
Yeah, they
place-
come through too.
They come through? See? Well, they're not supposed to. It's a Christian
Yeah, they're
school,
good
you know.
kids up
We don't-
there.
Don't do anything bad. You don't do anything. You don't break rules when you go to North Greenville, right? Never happens. So shout out to JJ, killing it right now.
Is that why they had to change the mascot from the Crusaders? Something that is, harkens
Revered.
back to like religious purity and going and fighting for your
don't know if it was
God.
pure, but-
I know, right? Yeah, you can. We could do an hour and a half on the Crusades,
Right,
but now
yeah.
you changed it to Trailblazers. So
We're blazing
you're
the
supposed
trail,
to
baby.
you're supposed to be a student body base of good kids, but the Trailblazers are the ones
You
bad
blaze it,
kids
baby.
going out
You
to the
gotta
bars.
Blaze. You got to blaze.
Did you blaze while you were in North
no,
Greenville?
you blaze trails. I will
Oh,
say,
yeah.
I did blaze trails. Okay, I some good, some bad. Diesel.
Listen how fast he's talking.
The
He's
best-
nervous.
No, the
I was
best
going to say
one-
something like Blazing Saddles. Sorry.
Well,
it was
look,
most
it's
innocent
okay.
thing popped in my head.
It's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
The
Stay
best-
puff Marshmallow Man.
The best trail JJ and Diesel that I ever blazed while at North Greenville. The first thing that they had ever seen done in my 5 years there. You know, I redshirted 1 year, right? Do you know that, Diesel? I redshirted the year.
Is that, it took me 5 years to get out of college too.
So, quick story. Speaking of trailblazers, the person who is over like all of camp, not the president, but like, you know how every university, Diesel, has the guy who's over the campus and not the dean, but they oversee the day-to-day stuff, right? Well, everything that happens and everything that goes down. I was the first one, me and a buddy of mine, to get reprimanded for playing cornhole on the roof of the dorms.
Can you take the co-host one
Is that
and
okay?
and turn it down, like bring it down just a little bit? Co-host to your left, JJ. To your right,
What
sorry,
are we
to your
doing right
right. I'm gonna play a little music here because this is for Cole and his.
Did you like
and
my
his-
story, though?
Tell us more about the trails that you were blazing.
No, did you like my story?
I wasn't listening to your story. I
no,
was
no.
trying to find this.
This is what we have to put up with, JJ. Diesel doesn't listen to me. I just told a whole story, and Diesel didn't even listen to it. What is this music?
Da, da,
Afro Man.
I don't know.
Because I got high.
Why aren't you
You
playing the music?
trailblazer.
24 years ago.
I don't blaze that.
Trailblazer.
I don't blaze that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
Well, that story's for none because Diesel doesn't listen to me. But I'm just talking to you.
I'm not
Tolos.
perfect. I can't walk and talk and
You
chew
can't
gum at the
listen-
same time.
You can't listen to what's coming into your ears while your headset's on.
He
No.
said you were
Tolos out
boring.
there.
He said you were boring.
I was thinking.
I'm boring.
Any more information goes in there, smoke's going to start coming out of my ears, okay?
Texter says, all right, Cole, was it you messing with Rob this morning? I have no idea what you're talking about, Texter. I did not get to listen this morning, so let us know what happened. John Dog says, Georgia needs an NIL deal with Uber. Absolutely embarrassing. I like that idea. Good idea, John Dog. All right, let's get you updated on what's happening in the March Madness tournament right now. Duke leads Mount St. Mary's 91-47. That game is long gone in the background, in the rearview mirror, if you will. Vandy, pretty close game. Vandy, the 10 seed, leads 7 seed St. Mary's 42-36, 11:43 to go in the ball game there. Halftime, Ole Miss all over North Carolina, 44-26 at the moment. And then Diesel, one more just tipped, Maryland versus Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon the 13, Maryland the 4. It's 11-7 right now.
The Lopes
The
from
Lopes, Grand
Where?
Canyon,
where's that?
Arizona,
What city?
Tucson,
Phoenix.
Phoenix, same thing.
I mean, the college is in Phoenix. The Grand Canyon isn't in Phoenix, but the college is in Phoenix.
Yeah, I've been to the Grand Canyon.
I have St. Mary's beating Vanderbilt, so I'm in trouble here with this one. I'm down 6 points at halftime. I believe you took Vandy.
I
in
took
this one.
Vandy. Yeah, I
God,
took
my,
Vandy.
how does this keep happening to me?
It's okay. You can you'll get it next year. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more games tonight. The games that have concluded already today. For those of you who may be just now getting off work, Alabama defeated Robert Morris 90-81. Iowa State defeated Lipscomb 82-55. Colorado State defeated Memphis 78-70. Baylor defeated Mississippi State 75-72. Diesel, I did want to bring this up, though, because we have not spent any time talking about this because Clemson stole the headlines yesterday and today, right? Mm-hmm. But, you know, the very first game of the day yesterday, we watched Louisville go down to Creighton. Creighton put up 89 points on Louisville. And I wanted to bring this to the table because there might be some validity to this. There may not be. And I want to know from you, Tolos, as well. We talked a lot, Diesel, leading into the tournament about who could go on a run, right? Who would be the Cinderella? And I know you may not classify Creighton as a Cinderella because they're always relevant in the postseason, at least most of the time they are. But do you not think hanging 89 on Louisville sent a message to say, hey, maybe we're the team that y'all need to watch out for? Maybe Creighton's the team as the round of 32 starts on Saturday. Maybe Creighton's the team tomorrow, Diesel, that tomorrow night at 7:10 can knock off the Auburn Tigers. Any truth, any validity? Creighton almost scored 90 points against a pretty good Louisville team. 9-1 tomorrow night, Creighton, Auburn. Auburn's favored by 9.5 points. What if Creighton says, hey, we're the team that goes and that we're going to go and do this, and Creighton potentially can knock off a team that everybody has winning the tournament?
Yeah, it could happen. It really could happen. Creighton plays fast. They put up a lot of points. They shoot threes well. They move the ball well. Creighton is a pesky kind of team, you know. I don't think a lot of people would be shocked if Creighton knocked off Auburn. I mean, it would certainly, you know, it would catch some people by surprise, and you would say, oh, wow, Auburn lost. But then again, Auburn didn't play well down the stretch the last couple games of the season. They didn't play particularly well in the SEC tournament. So they're not playing their best basketball right now, and Creighton seems to be playing their best basketball. And look, it doesn't matter if the enrollment at Creighton is 8,000 and the enrollment at Louisville was 23,000, and they just beat them. You know, a smaller school that's motivated, that's playing tight, that's playing clean basketball can absolutely knock off the best in the game. The good thing for me, Cole, I would love for that to happen because I had Auburn going out early to Louisville. So I need Auburn to get beat, and I need a lot of people's brackets to start crumbling if I'm going to stand any chance to even get up to the middle of the pack.
So I think it could happen. Auburn knocked out Alabama State yesterday. Their reward for that's Creighton, who upset Louisville at Rupp Arena. So, Diesel, despite earning the 20-point win, yesterday Auburn shot 45% from the field. A terrible day at the free throw stripe, right? 18 of 32, not good at all. Auburn struggled with ball handling. They had 12 turnovers, 10 steals. Coach Bruce Pearl was not happy after the game. We talked about that a little bit yesterday as well. He said to come out in the NCAA tournament with that energy and that effort, that's why we lost last year. We have to be so much friggin' better than what we are right now, Pearl said. If I'm Creighton, I'm licking my chops right now. I'm really excited to play us. If I'm a Creighton coach, we have a lot to figure out in the next 24 to 36 hours if we're going to beat a really good team, not good enough, really poor. So Bruce Pearl not happy with what happened yesterday. Offensively, Auburn failed to shoot above 45% from the field and shot just 54%, like I said, from the free throw line, Diesel. They did out-rebound the Hornets of Alabama State 46-36, 30 points of production from the bench. So let me say this, I would not go as far to put Auburn in the same category as Clemson when it comes to slumping a little bit down the stretch, because Auburn got 30 points, Diesel. Auburn had 30 points of production from their bench yesterday, which is really good. Clemson, in a million years with this team, will never get 30 points out of that bench, right? It didn't matter if they played 10 times yesterday.
Yeah.
So even though Auburn may be slumping, even though Creighton beat Louisville, where do you Tolos have this game going tomorrow? Because we have some really intriguing matchups tomorrow. Again, Auburn is a 9.5-point favorite over Creighton. That game is tomorrow night at 7:10. Auburn's good. They have one of the best players, if not arguably the best player in Johnny Broome in the entire country. He's been fantastic all season long. But you look at a team like Creighton. Diesel, could a team like Creighton be a matchup nightmare, just like McNeese was for Clemson? I think they absolutely could. It should be a lot of fun to watch.
Well, this is, you can make a lot of comparisons between Clemson's first-round exit to McNeese State this year and Auburn's first-round exit to Yale last year.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of talk about how good that Auburn team was last year, and there was super high expectations for them to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament, and they took it on the chin, lost 78-76 in the first round last year to those smarty pants, those nerds up there at Yale. So
Yeah, not a good loss.
It's not a good loss. The good thing is if you're Clemson, maybe you're looking and saying, okay, the way that Auburn was able to use the motivation of the Yale loss last year is hopefully the way that Brad Brownell is going to use the motivation of the McNeese State loss this year going into next year. Consider the fact that 2 years ago, well, technically 3 years ago, Clemson took an early loss in the NIT. What did they do? They came back and they made an Elite Eight the following season. Clemson made an early exit in the round of 64 this year. Hopefully next year they turn it around. Now, obviously, it's a big difference when you have Johanny Broome on your roster. It's sticking around. It's a lot easier to build on a guy like that and recruit players to come to you in the transfer portal when they're going to be playing alongside Johanny Broome. So I mean, Creighton has the ability to do it. I think this is going to be a really interesting game. Do I call for it? No. Do I call the upset? No. Would I be shocked if they did it? Also, no. I mean, if I had to predict this game, I'm going to say Creighton keeps it close up until about the 5-minute mark to go, and then Auburn slowly pulls away over the last 5 minutes, maybe wins the game by 7.
Diesel, before we look at tomorrow's matchups that are already set, today's outcomes will determine Sunday's matchups in the round of 32. But one game did go final. Duke defeated Mount St. Mary's 93-49, just an absolute bloodbath up in Raleigh. So that's 5 games that have gone final. Quick update, Vandy, St. Mary's. We're going to put that game on our television in the next break because that's the game to watch. Vandy, St. Mary's tied at 43. Ole Miss is just obliterating North Carolina right now, 44-26. I'm going to touch on them because I told you I would. Maryland leads Grand Canyon 20-12. I'll tell you what, let's do this. I'll save tomorrow's matchups. We'll save that for later in the show, maybe the next segment. But let's touch on North Carolina.
Okay.
Diesel, when North Carolina got in the tournament, there were a lot of people who, I guess, get paid to rep and advocate for the ACC. I hadn't got a paycheck yet, but there were a lot of people in the upstate, on Twitter, in this area, who have influence, who said North Carolina getting in was deserved. Them having to play in a play-in game was not deserved. They should have been an automatic bid in. Then North Carolina proceeds to, in the play-in game, you remember, beat the brakes off of the Sisters of the Poor, right? That was, Tuesday night, I believe.
San Diego State.
San Diego State. You're right. Give credit to them. They did make the play-in game. Diesel, when that happened, Do you know that people had the audacity to say, I told you so? I told you so.
Yeah.
North Carolina
Yeah.
should be in because I told you so. They just beat San Diego State Community College, who was just last year looking for funding to continue their education. They just beat them by 98 points. North Carolina, I told you so, they should be in. How are those I told you so's looking right now? They're getting drugged by Bruce Pearl. Bruce Pearl's putting it on them. R.J. Davis has 10 points. It's 44-26 at
Chris
the
Beard,
halftime.
I mean.
What did I say?
You said Bruce Pearl.
Chris Beard. Yeah, I don't think Bruce Pearl has went to.
I think he's coaching two teams at the same time.
You never know. He could be, but Chris Beard is putting it on.
That's
him.
talent.
Right now, Dre Davis for Ole Miss leads the team with 13 points. For North Carolina, Diesel, you don't have anybody in double digits yet. Nobody in double figures. So North Carolina not playing well. Ole Miss is shooting 51.9% from the field. Ole Miss is hot offensively. 7 of 13 from three-point land, which is 53.8%. They're hitting their free throws, 69.2% there. They're out-rebounding North Carolina 21-12. More offensive rebounds, more defensive, more assists, more steals. I mean, they're playing really well. This Ole Miss team, the reason I picked North Carolina, Diesel, is because I thought North Carolina had the players to be able to go and compete with the SEC. Let's not act like this one game determines ACC versus SEC. But if this is the ACC versus SEC matchup, this is not a good picture that's being painted by the ACC right now.
No, Duke, right. Duke, the only winner so far out of the ACC, and it's looking very likely that North Carolina will lose. And that means Louisville is lost, Clemson is lost, and North Carolina will eventually lose in this game. Are there any more ACC teams left outside of Duke? Will they be the only ACC team left in this thing? Am I correct in that assumption?
ACC tomorrow. There's none tomorrow.
I think that's it.
There's no ACC tomorrow.
All the other ACC teams that could play tomorrow have lost.
Yep, and then tonight, there you have Florida. No.
This is it.
No, that's it.
Think about this, Cole.
That's it.
Look, and you were talking about pundits who get paid to stand and stump on behalf of the ACC. There's one that I tend to think he's a pretty smart guy, and he's right about more things than not. Eric McLean. He's an analyst for the ACC network. He had 3 out of his final 4 coming out of the ACC, which is absurd. Right?
Say that again.
He out of his final 4, and I'll show you.
No.
I'll show you his graphic.
No, he
Look at Eric McLean's final 4. This was posted on Twitter yesterday. He had Louisville, Duke, Clemson, and Florida
not real.
playing in the final 4, and I believe this is a screenshot. I can't go back and find the exact tweet at this moment. But I believe he had Clemson winning the national championship.
Let me see that again. Is this real?
I'm going to put it up.
Real?
I'm going to put it up to the camera here in just a minute so everyone else can see this.
Eric McLean.
Yep.
Had 3 of his final 4 be from the ACC.
Yep. And he works for the
gosh.
ACC network. If that tells you anything, Cole, what did we just do? What we spent some time on yesterday
my
and
gosh.
spent some time today talking about these homers that are down the road talking about how great Clemson is.
He had Louisville in the final 4.
So did I.
Well, okay,
So did
never
I.
mind.
I thought Louisville.
Diesel, you had Louisville in the final 4.
I did. Louisville absolutely handled Clemson, and that's in the ACC tournament, and that's before we really knew that Clemson was in dire straits. I thought Louisville just shut Clemson down, and then Louisville took Duke to the brink in the ACC championship game. I thought, you know what? If I'm going to pick somebody to find some magic and go on a run, why not the Louisville Cardinals?
Why not Pat Kelsey?
Why not Pat Kelsey?
I know. I love Pat
Kelsey.
Kelsey.
I thought they got a great coach. They got a really good roster. I thought maybe they could get past Auburn. I thought they had the dudes to do it. I mean, I was terribly wrong. I didn't have Clemson making it to the national championship game or making it to the Final
Diesel,
Four.
When you have a year where the ACC is no good, they're very top heavy. Clemson was the second best team. Clemson did beat Duke. All the credit in the world for that. But, Diesel, you can't have 3 in 2025. You can't have 3 of your Final Four from the ACC. I mean, I don't even know.
Well, I
Here's
mean, he
what don't-
clearly knows who's signing his paychecks.
Well, he does, and I don't even know if he really did. He really believe that?
I
Did he
mean,
really?
you got there's some element to be argued about what swayed his decision making to get there by his employer, but also, Cole, we're all public figures. We can have our credibility called into question by the audience when you get it so terribly wrong. That said, Tolos, please don't call my credibility into question because I got my bracket so terribly wrong. We're not talking about me. We're talking about Eric McLean, who makes a lot more money than I do and does this full time for the ACC network.
That's unbelievable. I'm glad you brought that up. I had no idea. I had no idea that he did that.
Right?
And by the way, let me give you, before we run to a break, let me give you a South Carolina women's update. Only 2 minutes to play in the third period. South Carolina leads Tennessee Tech 74-34.
Ooh.
First
So you're
round
telling me
game.
there's a chance of a comeback.
74-34.
When we come back, Cole, on the other side of the break, is there a valid, logical argument to be made for a change in how the NCAA tournament not only is selected but is populated, especially when it comes to the mid-majors? That conversation next. North Carolina down 19 points to Ole Miss, 50-31. North Carolina does have a shooter on the free throw line. That second shot is good. Now it's an 18-point deficit. If they're going to mount a comeback, they're going to have to do it without freshman Jalen Withers, 6'9", 220. We just saw him come down very awkwardly on his ankle in a shot attempt against Ole Miss. And oh, man, you hate to see these.
Yeah,
you hate to see those kinds of ankle injuries. Look, I know these guys, their ankles are probably taped like crazy, but when you're coming down with the amount of force that they are coming down on their ankles, it is hard not to turn them sometimes.
Ole Miss with an and 1, Diesel. I was going to say before the and 1, you've got it to 18. Still plenty of time. If you're North Carolina, and I'm sitting here watching, you would think you've got to cut this thing to a 10-point game. You've got how much time left? 15:51 roughly. You've got to Tar Heels. They've got to cut this thing to 10. I'd say by 7 minutes. So think about it. They've got about 7.5 minutes, Diesel, to get within 10 points. They're down 20, probably about to be down 21. They've got to go on some kind of run here to see if they can cut it. But by 7.5 minute mark, you've got to have this thing to maybe 6.5. You've got to have it to a 10-point game to have a chance. But this one, I don't know.
Cole, it's unfortunate to see just how many times teams that have just gone through a great season run into a buzzsaw like playing Duke, like playing a Tennessee, like playing a Houston, and to watch them just absolutely get curb stomped at in the NCAA tournament is hard to watch. And I wonder, Cole, here, if there isn't a better way to do seeding or to do entry into the NCAA tournament. And I've been a proponent for the little guy for a long time, saying that all conferences should, on paper, be penciled in 2 entries into the NCAA tournament. Your regular season champ gets in, and your tournament champ gets in. If the same team does both, it opens up a number of at-large spots to be filled by the additional major conference teams. But Cole, out of the 27 spots that are open to mid-major conference teams who win their conference championship game, I wonder if there's not a better way to do it. Instead of going conference champions automatically get in, why not use the net or the KenPom or some combination of all of the different rating services? And instead of putting in the best team in every, or the conference champion in every conference, why not just put in the 27 best mid-majors? Would you not see more opportunities for upsets in the NCAA tournament instead of putting in a Mount St. Mary's? And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Mount St. Mary's, but they lost to Duke like a lot to a little.
By 90.
Yeah, if
Not really,
instead of
yeah.
automatically putting them in by virtue of winning their conference tournament, why not say, if you're one of the best 27 mid-majors by net, you're going to get in. And you can use the games played in your conference tournament as data points to improve your resume to get one of those best 27 spots, Cole. But,
What teams would that eliminate off the top of your head? If you're just, because
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that it would eliminate. Well, let's go straight to the 16 seeds.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that it would eliminate an Alabama State and a St. Francis.
Okay.
I'm guessing that it would eliminate probably an Omaha, a Norfolk State, the American and Mount St. Mary's. It could eliminate Wofford. It would probably eliminate SIU Edwardsville if they weren't one of the top 27 mid-majors.
So
right.
it would almost be like the
Merit-based.
mid-majors having their own tournament within a tournament.
Essentially, they wouldn't be playing each other,
but
data points, and you could even you could probably add a little extra weight to the data points scored or put up during their conference tournaments. But, I don't like seeing a team that has just gone on to probably the best season they've ever had, or a really good season, go and get beat by 50 by a team they are completely outclassed by on the court. Certainly, it's possible, right? We've seen a 16 beat a 1. We've seen 15s beat 2s, 14s beat 3s. But Cole, I kind of want to eliminate the worst of the teams that get into the NCAA tournament by virtue of winning their conference tournament, solely using that as the reason why they get in.
So here's what I want to see. I want to see a simulation, Diesel, of what that would look like.
Sure.
A video, I don't know exactly what it would take, but somehow, some way to have a simulation to see if they would be competitive.
So
right?
Here would be a way to do it, and we'll get into the next commercial break. I could probably, put this list together fairly quickly. Just go on the net or the KenPom rankings and make a list of the 27 highest KenPom rated teams that are in mid-major conferences. So no SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, or Big East, because those are the 5 major conferences.
That would be interesting.
And say those teams get in, and then take a look and see who this year would not have gotten in that was outside of the top 27 mid-major teams. I don't know for sure that it would change a lot, but also consider, Cole, a really good American athletic team, for example, that doesn't get into the NCAA tournament because they didn't get an additional bid, or putting a Chattanooga in, or putting that's how you might get multiple bids out of the SoCon if you have multiple SoCon teams in the 27 best mid-majors.
So a quick update. Vandy just hit a 3. They were trailing 58-53, Diesel.
Mm-hmm.
It is now 58-56. 28 seconds to play. So the ESPN score update is faster than my YouTube TV. I've still got 52 seconds on YouTube TV, so I'll be able to give you an interview or a replay, if you will. But 27 seconds, St. Mary's the 7. I picked Vandy. Did you pick St. Mary's?
I picked St. Mary's. I picked St. Mary's.
This would be a big blow to a lot of people's bracket and our challenge, because there were a lot of people who had Vandy winning, including myself.
St. Mary's up 2 with 28 seconds to play.
Must
and again,
have been a timeout.
You're watching it on YouTube TV.
Behind.
I'm just looking at the box score.
I am too. It says 27, so now I'm caught up, Diesel, at 27. There must have been a timeout or an injury, because now they both say 27. So that tells me there's a timeout.
Yeah.
And the ESPN ticker should update here. Oh, okay. Dead ball, team rebound, St. Mary's. It's, again, 58-56, 27 seconds to play for those of you heading home. St. Mary's hit a free throw to make it 59-56. It's now a 3-point game. Quick update, Ole Miss leads North Carolina by 16, 56-40. And Maryland is all over Grand Canyon, 42-25. Those are the only 3 games happening right now. The next game is Florida-Norfolk State at 6:50. But the second free throw, let's see if the second free throw is good. Diesel, if he hits the second free throw, it's going to make it a 4-point game, and that'll be tough with 27 to play for Vandy. I don't know, man. Wasn't Vandy, you and I looked a minute ago, wasn't Vandy up like 20 points? I mean, not 20 points. They were up big earlier. It may not be. Okay, the second free throw is good. Oh, no. They only got 1 free throw. So it's 59, timeout St. Mary's, 59-56. My apologies. So Vandy will get the basketball with 27 seconds, down 3, 59-56 is the score. This one's going to be a lot of fun. Coming off of a made free throw by Mitchell Saxon for St. Mary's. St. Mary's the 7 seed, 28-5 on the season. Vandy the 10, 20-12. This is March Madness right here.
Gotta love it.
This is it. Come on, Vandy. Go down there and hit a 3. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch tabs so I'm not looking at the ESPN page, so that I'm only watching the YouTube TV broadcast, which is delayed by like 60 seconds. With all these streaming platforms, Diesel, ESPN's already delayed a little bit, and then whatever's next is delayed. YouTube TV is delayed even more. When I watch YouTube TV at home, I think I'm delayed in a live sporting event by a good minute and a half. So it's really not live. I don't know if you Tolos out there have YouTube TV or use utilize YouTube TV. By the way, North Carolina has cut this thing to a 13-point game, so they're playing well, going on a little bit of a run. Let's see what happens coming out of a timeout. I'm not watching the ESPN ticker. I want to watch in real time the actual game. Vandy, again, to set the scene, is down by 3, 27 seconds to go in the ball game, while Ole Miss just got a bucket to go up 58-43. So, all right, here we go, Diesel. You picked St. Mary's.
I did.
I picked Vandy. Tolos, let us know who you picked. Vandy will get the last shot. Again, I have not. It may have already gone final. I have not looked at the ESPN. I want to have my live reaction on air to what happens. They're bringing the ball up the court with 20 seconds, and Vandy needs a 3. They have to have a 3 here. St. Mary's has to be careful not to foul, though. A 3 jacked up, no good. Rebound goes to St. Mary's. Oh, did they give it to Vandy? Is it gone final?
I'm still at 12 seconds. It has gone final.
Man.
The St. Mary's Gales. Yeah. He calls one right for a change. How about it?
St. Mary's. So
SEC.
SEC team just goes down, right?
How about that?
So there's the 10 seed. But a favorite winning St. Mary's out of Cleveland, Ohio. What was their mascot? Gales?
The Gales.
How do you remember that?
It's right there on my screen.
Oh.
It's right there. That's the only way I know.
Best memory ever.
However, I will tell you, Cole, I am putting together a list of the top 27 mid-major teams. Again, I'm not counting the Big East.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily going back and seeing who all the traditional one bid leagues are.
Yeah.
But I am just excluding those 5 conferences: ACC, SEC, Big 10, Big 12, and Big East. Excluding those 5. The top 27 teams that are not in those 5 conferences. And I'm using Ken Palm. So I'll get a sense, and I'll have a more clear picture for you in the next segment, what 27 teams would get in. And by the way, St. Mary's, I apologize for saying them earlier. I think I meant Mount St. Mary's, because St. Mary's was the number 1 mid-major this season.
So we have plenty of time. Let's get to that at 6 in that 6 o'clock segment. Brother Contreras on the YouTube stream says, I told you, Cole, don't stick with Vandy. I know, I should have known, right? It is Vandy after all. But in the next segment, let's take a look at the games tomorrow. They're all slated. They're all ready. And tomorrow's matchups have been determined because of what happened yesterday. Again, today's games will determine tomorrow's or Sunday's outcomes. Let me start over. Today's games, the outcomes will determine Sunday's matchups. Tomorrow's matchups are already set. We'll take a look at that next. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and you are listening to the Fan Upstate. Tomorrow, a wonderful slate of games to look at, to sit down on your couch, on your recliner, whatever you sit on at home. No promo there. Starting at 12:10.
Immunity.
Yes, 12:10 tomorrow, all the way until about 11:40. You'll have college basketball on, and Diesel, we have a fantastic slate of games. Don't look at the ESPN because we're going to do a quick game of Guess the Spread, starting off at 12:10, where McNeese, who just took down Clemson, will play Purdue. The spread tomorrow, who do you think's favored and by how much? Purdue, by the way, is a 4. McNeese is a 12.
Yeah, I'm going to say Purdue is favored by 6.5.
5.5. That's really good.
Oh,
really
close.
good guess. Really good guess. That's impressive. And then tomorrow at 2:40, the game that I cannot wait for. I signed me up. Arkansas, the 10 seed, versus St. John's, the 2 seed. Diesel, who is favored and by how much?
I'm going to say St. John's by 4.5.
6.5. 6.5 in favor of St. John's. So you're close on these. You've gotten both favorites
Doing
right.
well.
Yeah, you're doing good. 5:15 tomorrow on CBS. Michigan, who, look, I know they won the first round game. I'm not really impressed with. I know they got hot, won the conference tournament. I watched Michigan 3 or 4 times during the regular season and just wasn't impressed. Maybe it's just all about getting hot at the right time. But Michigan to 5, taking on Texas A&M in the round of 32 starting tomorrow. 5:15 Diesel. Michigan versus A&M. Who is favored and by how much?
Give me the seeds one more time.
Michigan's the 5 and A&M's the 4.
I'm going to say A&M's favored by 1.5.
2.5. You're doing good.
Point off, yeah.
You're doing good. Let's see if you can keep it up. 6:10 on TNT.
I'm better at this game than I am
Picking the
picking
brackets.
winners.
Maybe you should do this for a living.
Yeah.
Pick spreads for a living. Number 11 seed Drake, 31-3 on the season. Taking on the 3 seed Diesel, 11 versus a 3. Drake versus Texas Tech. Who is favored in Wichita, Kansas tomorrow night, and by how much?
I'm going to say that Texas Tech is favored by 3.5.
6.5. Which is interesting because Drake upset their opponent in the first round, right?
Yeah.
And that's I'm telling you, man, tomorrow is going to be slam full of good games. Like, tomorrow is going to be a fantastic day for college basketball. 7:10 tomorrow night on TBS/True TV. Auburn, the 1 seed Diesel, they are playing Creighton, the 9. Creighton beat Louisville yesterday to start March Madness off, right? Creighton, Auburn, the 9 versus the 1. Who is favored and by how much?
Auburn favored by 7.5.
9.5. Are you cheating up there? You're looking at the ceiling tiles. They have the
No,
spreads.
I'm
on.
looking at the. I'm looking at today's scores.
They are impressive. That is impressive. You're 9.5, so not far off. 7:45 tomorrow night on CBS. The 6 seed BYU takes on the 3 seed Wisconsin. BYU, Wisconsin. Who is favored by how much?
Oh man,
This one's tricky.
This one is tricky. I'm gonna say.
Wisconsin's a 3. BYU's a 6.
I'm gonna say, by virtue of. Oh man, I'm gonna say Wisconsin favored by 0.5 point.
1.5.
Wow.
You're doing good. You're
Wow.
doing good. A point. That game tomorrow night is a sneaky good game. Like, I know I said the Texas Tech Drake game might be. I mean, tomorrow, don't let your wife Tolos tell you. You've got to be in front of the TV from start to finish tomorrow night. This is going to be incredible basketball. Hopefully, no blowouts. Right? The blowouts belong in the first round. And then you fast forward to the round of 32 Diesel, and you don't have as many blowouts, hopefully. All right, 2 more for you. You've guessed everyone correct in terms of the favorite. Let's see if you can continue and go perfect down the stretch. 8:40 tomorrow night on TNT. The 8 seed Gonzaga versus the 1 seed Houston.
Ooh.
Who is favored and by how much?
Houston favored by 6.5.
5.5. God,
Point.
you're good at this. You're good at this. So, pretty close game expected tomorrow. And then one more, 9:40 tomorrow night. This could be a good game, excuse me, as well. A team that I did not have getting out of the first round in UCLA, the 7, taking on Tennessee, the 2, 9:40 tomorrow night, True TV. This one's in Lexington, Kentucky, Rupp Arena. Who is favored? The 7 and the 2, Tennessee, UCLA, Diesel, and by how much?
Tennessee favored by 6.5.
4.5.
Okay.
Pretty close spread there.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, pretty close. They're Vegas, for whatever reason, expecting UCLA, Tennessee to be very close, man. You know, I know a lot of people don't like the blowouts in the first round, and I get it. But tomorrow and Sunday could be special. Like, it could be great. And we're not going to be on the radio, obviously, for it because we're off 2 days a week. But Diesel,
how dare we?
Yeah, how dare us take time off? But Monday is going to be fun. So much to unpack.
Would you, Cole, work 10 days straight if it meant you got a 4-day weekend?
Would I work 10 days straight?
10 days straight for a 4-day weekend.
Is that like a cycle? Every 10 days, 4 days?
Yeah, 10 on, 4 off. Doing sports talk radio. 10 on, 4 off.
And now we do 5
we
on,
do 5
2
too.
off. No.
If you ask the Tolos, we take 4 days a week off.
They do doing things. No, I would not do. I would not do 10 on, 4.
What
off.
if it was seasonal?
Yeah.
During like college football, NFL, all of it's in full swing.
So let me propose something else to you.
Mm-hmm.
How about this? During football season, from August until the Super Bowl, I don't take any time off.
No time.
Vacation.
You work
0.
every single day.
Every day.
For like 3-4 months.
But then the rest of the time, only 3 days a week. That'd be what? 4 days week, 4-day weekend?
3 on, 4 off?
Oh, sign me up. Are you kidding me?
Really? Every single
Every
day
day.
for like 4 months?
Sign me up. 4-day weekend?
I couldn't do it, dude. I couldn't do I am
Creature of
America's biggest proponent for the 4-day work week. Come on, can we make this happen? Like every other civilized country in the
Would
world.
you rather have Monday or
does this.
Friday off if you had to pick?
Friday.
Me too. Yeah,
I'd rather have Friday.
Yeah, I agree.
Because there's so much going on Thursday nights now, right?
And if you take Monday off, Tuesday just becomes the Monday.
Tuesday becomes the new Monday.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. Friday's the best day. That'd be a good choice. Very good choice. But Tolos, want to let you know you can follow Diesel and I on Twitter, on X. Do so right now, matter of fact, because this weekend when a lot's going on, we won't be on here talking. So follow us on Twitter so we can interact. So many Tolos already do so. Diesel is at Diesel on Radio. Mm-hmm. I am at the Cole Bryson. This next segment, we're about to run into a break, but let's see if we can get some bing notifications with some new followers if you don't do so already. If you're not on Twitter, get on Twitter so you can interact with Diesel and I. Again, at Diesel on Radio, at the Cole Bryson on X.
I love Bing notifications. I also love Boopstachios. If you know what I'm talking about.
Notifications. I like cha-ching, like the Venmo.
Cash App.
Cash App.
When we
JJ.
come back, Cole, I've compiled the list. I was talking earlier about a new plan to revolutionize how the mid-majors get selected into the NCAA tournament. What would that list of teams look like that would get in this year? And who would be left out that got in? We'll see if we're actually losing anything by kicking those teams out. That's coming up next. Live check-in on the scores as we speak. North Carolina mounting a little bit of a comeback. Will it be too little too late? 63-57 is 63-59. They've got it under. Wow. Okay, I was wrong.
Let's go.
Ole Miss misses a long jumper.
This has gotten
Rebound.
really interesting
Wow.
all of a sudden.
Do we have to eat crow, Cole, since you just ranted on the smarty pants
I don't know what you're talking
ACC
about. What are you
people who
talking
said,
about?
how
What-
dare
me?
North Carolina be put into this
Rant?
thing?
What-
North Carolina has the ball with a chance to go down one. They have just missed an inside jumper. Ole Miss rebounds the ball. 4:09 to play, so still a lot
This
to
is
go in
awesome,
this
man.
game. We'll
This is
keep you
awesome.
updated as it goes along. Maryland is up 42-28 on Grand Canyon. 19 minutes to go in that ball game, Cole. Again, the final scores so far through the day. Duke 93, Mount St. Mary's 49, Alabama 90, Robert Morris 81. So Robert Morris did push Alabama in that ball game. Iowa State 82, Lipscomb 55, Colorado State 78, Memphis 70, St. Mary's 59, Vanderbilt 56, and Baylor beat Mississippi State 75-72. Now 3.5 minutes to play. Still a 4-point ball game.
I'm 4-2, by the way.
North
today.
Carolina misses a kind of a wild shot, but just got the ball back on a turnover. And we'll see if they can get it in the hoop. And no, they're unable to get the ball. Wow, referees are really letting these teams play right now, Cole.
Yeah.
It seems like these are the kind of situations refs would call a lot of fouls in.
If Ole Miss wins, I'll drop to 4-3. So there's a quick stat that's just put on the screen. Ole Miss has scored 0 points in the last 6 minutes. The last 6 minutes of play,
And they just scored.
they have not scored a point. I just jinxed them. But if Ole Miss wins this game, and again, I should not have picked North Carolina, but I will fall to 4-3 on the day. Not a great day, not at all. I mean, you don't want to be near 500. I really need some help tonight. So as of last night, I was like 27th in our bracket challenge, but I think I'm going to be plummeting here if North Carolina doesn't pull this thing off.
We've got Tolo's pointing out, Stephen Webb is pointing this out in the stream. He said 3,000 perfect brackets still left out of 25 million submitted, and one of them is in the Wire2Wire group. How
we don't
about
even know
that?
the person's
No, we have
name
no idea.
because people put like
Are we gonna find out who this is at any point, or is this Tolo gonna remain mysterious? Or not Tolo? He's a Armada
he wishes
guy.
He was a Tolo.
He tried to get into the Tolo club. We wouldn't let him in.
By the way, you know they couldn't. Just all kidding aside here, Tolo's out there. Listeners out there, we're saying all this tongue in cheek. You can listen to both shows. Rob Brown tried to drive a wedge into the in between the shows and say that you had to pick a side. We were doing this for show, but at the end of the day, after the dust settles with the NCAA tournament, it's okay for you to listen to the Rob Brown show and Wire2Wire.
It's
That's what we want you
showbiz,
to.
baby.
That's right.
This is all just for fun and
Funsies.
games. So, Cole, I brought up a topic while we were in commercial break, waiting for this North Carolina Ole Miss game to come back on. That they could look at revamping the way that mid-major teams get selected into the NCAA tournament. Maybe it would eliminate some of the huge blowouts in the 16-1 matchups. Now, certainly the power conferences wouldn't want this to happen because they don't want to face tougher competition in the NCAA tournament. They like being able to face the team that wins the 32nd best conference tournament. They like having them in because they get to, smack them around a little bit and get that easy bye into the second round here, Cole. But I just used Ken Pom, so this is not like an aggregate score here. These are the best 27 mid-majors this year in college basketball, some of which are not in this NCAA tournament. Colorado State, they're in. New Mexico is in. Boise State would have gotten in. Then Drake, Santa Clara, Memphis, San Diego State, McNeese State, Liberty, Utah State, San Francisco, UC Irvine, North Texas, who played in the NIT, Yale, Dayton, George Mason, Nevada, St. Joseph's, High Point, Arkansas State, Lipscomb, Bradley, Troy, and Grand Canyon. Those were by Ken Pom's numbers, 27 best mid-major teams. The first four out would have been UNLV, Akron, Northern Iowa, and UAB. And there are a couple teams, Cole, that were in the field this year by virtue of winning their conference tournaments that would not have been in by going by the top 27 rule.
Yeah.
And that would have been Alabama State, St. Francis, Lipscomb, Bryant, Norfolk State, Omaha, American, Mount St. Mary's, Robert Morris, Wofford, SIU Edwardsville, and UNC Wilmington. So you'd have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and this is including the 16 seed play-in teams. You'd have that many teams, 16 teams, 12 teams, excuse me, not getting in by virtue of the rule. Would you be in favor of at least exploring that option, or are you solely on the side of keep tradition the way that it is, don't eliminate any conference champions?
No, I would be in favor of exploring the option. However, what I would want to do, Diesel, is to make sure somehow, and I don't know if this is possible. This would be a tall task. It would take a lot of research.
Yeah.
But I'm in favor of exploring it. However, I would want to make sure that the teams that are going to get in now with this new methodology are going to give the Dukes of the world, the Houstons of the world, the Floridas of the world a better game. Look, there's a side also that argues, well, those teams, those Dukes, those Houstons, those Floridas, they earned throughout the course of the season the right to be the 1 seed to play a 16 seed,
Sure.
right? And I think as long as, the games now aren't competitive.
Well, so Duke would have been playing. Who was the number 1 overall seed? Was it Duke? Was Duke number 1 overall?
You're talking about for
this year's men's tournament. Was Duke number 1 overall?
I think it was. I don't think so.
It would have been either Duke, Houston, Florida. I think it was Florida, right?
Yeah.
So Florida would have played Grand Canyon instead of playing Auburn. Okay. Auburn would have played Grand Canyon instead of playing Alabama State. In all likelihood, and then Duke, Florida, and Houston would have played Troy, Bradley, and Lipscomb instead of playing who they played. So, there's some merits here to say that why do we set the standard on the at-larges for the Power 5 teams as the best teams, but we don't set that standard for the mid-majors? Why are we operating on 2 different standards for who gets into the NCAA tournament? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're not, in theory,
I'm trying to think about that.
And by best teams, I'm using statistical analysis, not regular season record, not getting hot, going on a run and winning your conference tournament. Why not take the 27 best mid-majors and put them into the tournament? You do that with the Power 5. In theory, the best teams get in out of the power conferences.
Yeah, I guess.
Why not have the best teams of the mid-majors get in?
I guess you could argue that if you're using 2 different forms of judgment, then it's
a double standard.
It's a
double standard.
But I'm saying if you still take the traditional approach with the Power 5s, but then use this Ken Palmer, whatever it is, with the mid-majors, it'd be 2 different philosophies. Bringing teams into
wow, RJ Davis is down and he is hurt. He skied a layup off the upper half of the backboard and in. He came down awkwardly. Looks like he's holding his left hip, left glute area, lower back. He looks hurt. This is bad. North Carolina, 3-point game.
He's fine. Get up, man.
He goes to the line with a chance to go down 2 with 1:10 to play.
Get up. He's not hurt.
Wow.
He's not hurt.
Got a phone call, JJ?
Ah, come on. It just fell. It's a hard fall. It's basketball. Get up, RJ. We got a game to win. I need you here.
Luke Kepke on the stream says North Carolina didn't deserve to be in this tournament. Would rather have Furman in over them. Oh, well.
I don't know about Furman.
I don't know about Furman.
But as far as North Carolina not deserving to get in, high off the glass too, man. That RJ Davis shot high off the glass. That was a thing of beauty right there. So he will. I believe it was he got hit in the face.
He came down hard on that left hip.
It was his hand under his hip too, or no? That was
his hand went down separate from his body. We go to the phone lines and we bring in. JJ, do you know who this is?
Luke
Luke, let's go on and get Luke. Is this Luke Kepke who is messaging in on the live stream?
It is.
Hey, Luke.
Hey, I just have one thing to say. I'd rather have the Furman Paladines or whoever it is over North Carolina in this tournament. North Carolina does not deserve to be in this tournament. And while I'm at it, Cooper Flagg, Brad Brownell just got the bag, and we just got dragged. Clemson in 5. Clemson does not deserve to lose that basketball game. That was all Brad Brownell.
Oh my gosh, I know Luke. Luke is absolutely
Sounds like a
crazy.
smart guy. He's making some salient points here.
He's just a Brad Brownell hater. I mean, that's all it is. We don't have.
Why would we decide to give him a contract right before the tournament? Because we knew he was going to leave for Indiana.
No, they didn't know he was going to lose. They didn't know Brad was going to lose to McNeese in the very next day. But if he'd have won, nobody would be saying anything about it.
Well, Brad Brownell, we need to bring in that something West guy. He's from Clemson. We need to bring in that guy. Get Brad out of here. We need to bring in some recruits. Chase Hunter and Ian Shefflin, they combined for a solid 1 point. We didn't start playing full court press until the second half of like 5 minutes.
You don't play full court press in the first half, though.
Well, I mean, that was working for us in the second half. Anything works was in there playing zone. We're letting them, whoever them D3 guys or whoever they are, D1, truck drivers. We're leaving them truck drivers sit there and drive in. We was being so soft in the paint. I'm watching this North Carolina game right now, and I don't know. I think
It's upset
Ole Miss
Clemson
deserves.
fan. It's okay. It happens. It is. It's upsetting, obviously. You know, I don't even know what Brad Brownell's new buyout is. I'm sure it's up there. By the way, Luke, thanks for the call. Diesel, Brad Brownell just got a contract. So you would have to imagine. Let's talk crazy here for a second since Luke brought it up.
He hits his free throw, by the way.
So
2-point ball game, a minute on the clock.
Let's talk crazy. If Brownell 3 years from now, 3 or 4 years from now doesn't pan out, his buyout with this new, his buyout would be too much. I don't see him.
Ooh,
I think he's there for
that
6
might be
more
ball
years,
game
don't
right
you?
there.
I think he's there for 6 more years.
Yeah, I mean, you make it really difficult. You know, you make getting rid of Brad Brownell really expensive. And look, Clemson fans won't get rid of Brad Brownell if he's not getting you to the tournament more than twice out of every 5 or 6 years. They're certainly not going to get rid of him if it's going to cost you, $10-15 million.
Buckeye Mike texts the show on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, which you can do at 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663, and says, I'm in my car or work truck all day. I listen to both shows. Both are great. Now that SCUM jerk on 12 to 3 is awful, Buckeye Mike.
Rich Eisen, isn't Rich a Michigan alum?
Yeah, that's a good text, though, by the way, Buckeye Mike. Good text. That's acceptable. Even though it's on our program, it's acceptable. He's your rival, right? You don't appreciate that, but Buckeye Mike, we appreciate you. I think it was about a year ago. Well, it's been a while. I met Buckeye Mike at an event, and maybe going on a year now. I hadn't seen Buckeye Mike in a long time, but appreciate you toloing. See, that's the perfect example. Buckeye Mike says, look, I listen to both shows. It's okay to listen to both shows, and Buckeye Mike, we appreciate you. So 69-64 now, Diesel. Ole Miss leads 52 seconds to go.
Yeah, it's getting tight here, Cole. Hopefully we're going to run to a break here in just a moment and bring you that Grayson Mann interview from earlier in the show. Man, I want to be here alive on the air as this game goes final. We'll keep it here.
I think here does North Carolina have the ball coming out?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
So you're down 5 points. You don't go for a three here, Diesel. With 52 seconds, you don't go for a three-pointer.
Best shot available.
I would try to get something at the rim and draw a foul.
Yeah, stop the clock and keep scoring.
If you can get a three-point play the old-fashioned way. Let's see what – I mean, look, for all the flack that Hubert Davis has gotten this season, okay, he was down 22 earlier in this game. Yeah. He's down 5 now with 52 under a minute. If he were to come back and win this against Chris Beard, a really good coach in the game, it'd be impressive.
So to Luke's point there about Brad Brownell and his new contract extension, if Brad gets Clemson into the Sweet 16, by beating McNeese State, and he would have had to beat the winner of Houston and Gonzaga.
This year,
Yeah, this year.
if he would have gotten them there.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, he would have had to beat the winner of Purdue High Point.
Gotcha.
If Brad had gotten this team this year into the Sweet 16, I think Clemson looks brilliant by extending Brad Brownell. You know, Elite 8 season followed up by a Sweet 16 season. You know, those are two admirable seasons.
Sure. Really good.
But God, losing to McNeese State the next day after you just got a 6-year extension, that's bad. It's a bad look for Clemson. It really is.
It's your fault because you're the one that jinxed it. You said it the moment he got his extension. You said, "Oh, I hope they don't lose tomorrow," and they lost. So it's your fault.
I didn't realize I had that much cosmic power.
Graham Neff can blame you for that one because you did bring it up, and this one's over, by the way.
Yeah,
I think.
Ole Miss at the line, hit the first one, now up 6. Balls in the air for the second shot. It's in. Ole Miss is up 7 with 34 seconds to play.
You got to hit a 3 right
Got to
here,
hit a
quick.
3.
They're passing the ball. R.J. Davis 3.
He's trying to jump into the shot
That's
to
over.
get the foul. And
So
rebound out of bounds. Do we know, was that a foul called or was that just an out of bounds?
I don't think it was I don't know.
These refs are letting these teams play, so I'm thinking that was probably just an out of bounds. We'll see who it's off of.
So Ole Miss is going to go on to defeat North Carolina. The only other live game, Maryland leads Grand Canyon. It's pretty much over, 55-36. Diesel, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more games tonight. A huge slate of games. You've got Norfolk State, Florida, Troy, Kentucky, New Mexico, Marquette, Akron, Arizona. A game I'm looking forward to is Oklahoma, UConn, and then Xavier, Illinois at 9:45. The last one of the night is, Bryant, Michigan State at 10, and then Liberty, Oregon at 10:10. So a full slate tonight, and we'll see if our brackets can get any better.
Worth pointing out that Calm Down Liberob had North Carolina winning this game, so he's going to fall a little bit in his bracket.
So he's
I
no
got
longer
this.
perfect?
I got this TRBS, who is in sole possession of second place, also has North Carolina winning this
Let's go
game.
Tolos!
So it would appear. Let's see who Drewtopia. Drewtopia is a Tolo.
Who'd he
He
have?
had Ole Miss winning this game. After this game,
We're
Wire
back.
to Wire is going to be
We're
back on top,
And
baby.
we're going to hold it, too.
Yeah, we are.
Who is Drewtopia, by the way? We've got to find out and rally around Drewtopia.
Hold him up.
Come
Lift him
on.
up. Put him on our shoulders.
We can't lose to Rob Brown.
Ole Miss misses the front end of a 1-and-1. North Carolina rebounds down the court.
Taking all
Throws
the
are getting real wild.
God.
3-point shot has been missed, and Ole Miss rebounds. North Carolina fouls. 9.8 seconds to go.
Well,
This one is
it's over.
over.
Maybe all the ones who said North Carolina did deserve to be in don't look so smart now. Grayson Mann, TigerNet.com. We talked to him earlier in the show. And listen, this is one of the best Grayson Mann interviews we've done because it's raw reaction to what happened with Clemson yesterday. Tolos, if you missed it, if you're a Clemson fan, you want to hear this coming up next right here on the Fan Upstage. now takes your mic and puts it hot. So what we do is take these.
Certainly expected themselves to perform a lot better than this.
I think that last night we spoke to Chase Hunter, and just the emotion in the locker room was pretty palpable. It's just, I think, more shock than anything was that it's almost like you just had some like traumatic event happen. You're like, did that just really take place? Did that really happen? And so Chase Hunter, we asked him just sort of what happened. We're trying to get to the bottom of this, and he described it as he didn't do a good job himself of rallying the troops when McNeese really started to throw punches at this group, saying, I needed to get the guys ready. We were entering a dogfight, and I wasn't well prepared enough to get these guys rolling, which I think was honestly pretty shocking to me, given the scope of this event and everything that had gone into this. I really do think the writing was on the wall in the Louisville game. It sort of followed a similar script where the offense just really couldn't get going, and you have a rally late, and it's just a little too late to get really things going. And the difference ended up being 2 points in a game where Clemson shot 6 of 26 in that first half. And I was able to talk to you guys at halftime, and just the pure shell shock that I think fans, media, and I think the players to an extent too felt on that court in Providence.
Grayson, we always appreciate you hopping on with us, even if it is from an airport. We have had a lot of discussion yesterday. We're going to continue to talk about it in the next segment, but the story here is who's to blame, right? I have said I do put a little bit of blame on Brad Brownell. I don't put the entirety of the loss on Brad, but when you talk about a player in Chase Hunter, Grayson, who didn't score in the first half, and then Ian Shefflin, who scored a point, right? Pretty much a meaningless point in a basketball game where you need Shefflin and Hunter to step up. Where do you place blame? Because blame has to be placed. Where do you place it?
I think naturally a lot of people are going to go to Brad Brownell about this. And I think two things can be true at once. I think that a lot can be put on the coaching, but at the same time, your two best players necessarily didn't show up when it really counted. I mean, Ian Shefflin and Chase Hunter, the duo that fans were going to be focused on all season, had one combined point with about 10 minutes to go in this game. And so when you look at that group and all the expectations that surrounded it, yeah, you can look towards Brownell and this coaching staff about how do you not get these guys ready? Where do you sort of change philosophy here, where you start out 0 of 8 from 3-point land? Do you try to get a little more focus inside? It just felt like this McNeese group had every answer and just was able to pass every test. And they were the ones that were hunting Clemson. That was sort of a unique storyline that I think got sort of thrown under the rug, was how does Clemson handle being the team that isn't going to surprise people anymore, where you have a lot of people picking them to go to the Final Four, Elite Eight, Sweet 16. McNeese was hunting them, and they probably understood that this might be their last bout with Will Wade, who is reportedly taking the job at NC State. The paper hasn't been signed on the dotted line yet, but that's all the indications. So I think it's just a matter of this group got caught by surprise, and whether that's a coaching thing or just the lack of, I think, potential barking and leadership. Because you look at last year's group of the Elite Eight, guys like Joe Girard, PJ Hall, they'd get on your butt. They'd scream. They'd be fist pumping after an and one. This just group didn't really have that in my mind. There wasn't really a alpha voice speaking out, going, we need to get things going. It was a lot of quiet voices. And when you pair that with a more low key head coach, it just, in that kind of moment, you just can see the writing on the wall.
Grayson, when you are critical of coaching, I think it comes down to two very fundamental parts: preparation and in-game adjustments. And Cole brought this earlier. He said he had heard from multiple coaches who had lost games and said that the zone really kind of put them in a tight spot. And I can't fathom that Clemson is not prepared to see the zone. Maybe they don't see it a lot in ACC play because you just got so many talented athletes that you don't run the zone very often. But these are all players who have played, 15, 20 years playing basketball. You've got coaches who have 25, 30 years of experience coaching basketball. To say that they didn't prep these guys for the zone, to me is inexcusable. And that's why you go back and watch McNeese film and see how much zone they run. On top of that, in-game adjustments. I mean, I look at the last probably 4 minutes of that game, maybe closer to 3 minutes of that game, and there were multiple McNeese State possessions where Clemson allowed them to get down to under 5 seconds on the shot clock and still make shots at the end of those possessions. Those are things that to me are just critical errors to not push them to get the ball up early. Are there any little moments that you look at and say, okay, that and that and that in the totality add up to something big?
I always think the first 6 minutes are really important, especially in a tournament game where you're sort of trying to figure things out. You're in a different location, different gym. And it felt like McNeese really came out with an emphasis and an urgency. And you saw that in the first few sets where it was, I think, with action to get one of their post players up, and then they ended up alley-oop dunking, and the crowd's all fired up. You're sort of settled in. Excuse the Delta announcement that we're getting in the middle of this flight. But in that same sense, like, you guys can still hear me, I hope, right?
Yeah, if you have to go catch your
Okay,
flight
cool.
and let go of us, we understand.
No,
We don't want you missing your flight.
I'm in here for the 2 hours. I think they're just intercomming over. See, I got to be prepared. I was thrown off by that guy, so that's on me. But I think that McNeese came out and it was sort of brilliant. I think that's what we're going to see from Will Wade if he doesn't need joining NC State. Is he's able to throw so many different things at you, and it threw Clemson off. You could tell with that zone package where that first look, Clemson was sort of unsure of where to go, and I thought they were going to try to get Chauncey Wiggins set up early, and they tried to get a corner 3 shot, and he ended up throwing that short. But I think the advantage of what we had with Clemson had with Dylan Hunter is if Chauncey chucks a couple shots out, Brownell sends them to the bench, and you're able to run Dylan for maybe 30, 32 minutes. So for this group, the margin for error for the Dill Joneses, the Jake Hydraters, who is 7 of 35 from three-point land in the season, a total whiff on the portal for being completely blunt. Miles Foster, did he see the court maybe for more than 8 minutes last night? A total. Just, I think that there are some players that Clemson had to rely on that had Hunter been, and I'm not trying to make excuses here, try to fly that out there, but I think the magnifying significance of Hunter, it was in the back of your mind last night, and it continued to creep up, especially as Clemson's offense just completely looked flat.
And Grayson, we've talked about that. I brought that up, leading into the tournament several weeks ago. What do you do if you're Clemson? I literally asked this question. What do you do if you're Clemson and you run up against a team in the tournament who has a guy off the bench go off, like what happened yesterday? What's your counter? It's not me being a great basketball mind. It's simple. Clemson doesn't have the depth. They don't have the offensive explosiveness on the bench, and that's exactly what happened in the first half. What does that say about where Brad Brownell is and what he will do in the future with recruiting a little bit deeper of a team?
Yeah, I think you're going to have to go hit Hunt in the portal once again, and Clemson's going to have to replace 3 or 4 starters, depending on that waiver for Jaden Zachary that's sort of been floating around ends up falling through. My gut tells me no, that you're going to have to prepare for life without him, just with how stingy those waiver processes tend to be. And from what I've heard, it's not likely he will be returning, and that waiver won't be granted. So you're going to have to not only rebuild this entire core, you're going to have to find some bench players that can competently come off the group. I mean, Cole Diesel, you can tell me, what was your sort of confidence level when you're seeing Jake Hybrider walk onto the scores table and check in? You're like, ooh, I don't know about this, guys. Or when Chauncey starts the way he does, it's just that the level of, I think, confidence from a fan base perspective, it just dipped. And when you have a start like that, it only regresses further. So the next few weeks are going to be interesting. What's going to be next for this group? What players are going to become available? Does this type of loss potentially hinder Clemson's star power that they've built up for the last 2 years? I think maybe that's not entirely fair to judge it off of one game when the body of work has been so strong otherwise. But you are remembered for what you do in the postseason, and this is going to be a stinker that many will remember for a while.
Well, on that front, Grayson, at least Clemson does seem to be aggressive in the NIL front. So it's easier to replenish when you're doing it not solely based on reputation and performance, but also on what you may be able to offer a star guy who's looking for a new home. I can say the one Pyrrhic victory for Clemson is hearing the emotion and the hurt in Victor Locken's voice in the postgame interview. The fact that after just one season at Clemson with Brad Brownell, he really cares that much. You could see that he was very emotional. That's promising for Clemson's future, the amount of buy-in that Brad's able to get from these players in a short period of time. Of those core of seniors that we just talked about, Shefflin, Locken, Hunter, possibly Jaden Zachary, if he doesn't come back to Clemson, what's next for those guys? Any chance that you project any of those guys have an opportunity to go play at the NBA level or maybe to go play overseas?
I think overseas is going to be an option for a lot of these guys. I think they're going to take a similar route to Gerard in that sense. And I think for Shefflin in particular, he's in a tough spot playing the four at a high level in the ACC, but he's not particularly quick enough to be a stretch forward in the NBA, not particularly big enough on the other end to probably be a five at the NBA level. So I think we'll expect to see a lot of these guys potentially getting summer league contracts. And so we'll be talking about them in July, watching them in Las Vegas. But I wouldn't project any of these guys as draft picks compared to the PJ Halls, where you could see if you got him on an NBA roster and the right coach, which you get him to Denver, who was able to develop Nikola Jokic so well, you're like, okay, you could see sort of the vision there. Something you mentioned, Diesel, is just the emotion. It sort of reminded you of Gerard's emotion last year in Los Angeles, where he's sobbing on the at the media availability for the post game press conference, just pleading with anyone who would listen to go come to play for Clemson. So people do pay attention and they do see the success that guys like Lock-in, Zachary had. They had career years here at Clemson. And so for players who want to go to the NBA, want to sort of follow that same path, final year, tournament team, projected likely, it's an option that's a viable spot. And so there's a formula that's been built. You're just going to have to get a little bit more extra in that. You're going to have to get a little bit more meat on the bone for this team in 2026, but they're going to also have the resources, I believe, that are going to be able to fund that.
Grayson Mann, TigerNet.com, joining us as he is at the airport in Providence. You can follow him on Twitter on X at Gray_Man21. That's MANN. Grayson, I went back and watched the game last night because we were on air yesterday, and you obviously watched the game, but weren't able to focus on it as much as I would have liked to. Why was McNeese, when you're going up against a Clemson team that is seasoned under Brad Brownell, who has been there for a long time, why was McNeese the more athletic team yesterday? If you don't believe that to be the case, you can obviously disagree with me.
I think they were able to play their own brand of basketball. And Will Wade talked about that on Wednesday. And his availability, it was, we really got to make sure we manage Clemson's size in the post. And that translated to me as he sees that as an immediate problem. And when you look at the box score, you'd imagine that Lock-in and Shefflin got pushed around like paper yesterday.
Yeah.
Wasn't even the same sort of team. And so I thought if Clemson could try to play a half-court game with McNeese, try to find a way through the post. But sometimes I think with three-point shooting teams, you've seen it with Boston, you've seen it with Golden State and the NBA, that when you have some off shooting nights, you sort of believe you can shoot yourself out of it. And for Clemson, I felt like there were a lot of empty possessions where you almost have too good of a look and you're like, maybe you can make that extra pass in the post and try to get something going confidence wise with your bigs. But you're also looking at that score going, we need some shots here. We need some threes versus some twos. And that's sort of where basketball is right now. And that's what I sort of felt in the second half. And that first 5-ish minutes where they're just sort of chucking up shots. And it's like, you're getting sort of B- shots instead of the A+ shots that you're usually accustomed to. And when the ball movement for this team is moving, you can see the potential of a tournament team that can make a run. But when the ball stops and the fluidity sort of pauses, it's when you start to see the cracks in this offense. And we saw that in droves last night.
Grayson Mann of TigerNet.com. My last question for you here, Grayson. What do you know of Brad Brownell's process after taking a loss like this? I mean, you kind of have to go back to 2 years ago, the loss they took in the NIT. You know, what is Brad Brownell going to be doing for the next, week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Is he going to the beach to decompress, or is he going to be, holed up in his office watching a lot of film trying to figure out exactly what went wrong?
I think it's probably going to be the latter. I don't think any vacation is in store for Brad Brownell anytime soon. And he talked about it last year after the Elite Eight. He just mentioned how tired he was, is that they immediately went on the road trying to recruit, trying to get some transfer guys. And I think this year the urgency is only more amplified with the roster you're going to be returning. And nothing is for certain with the players on the roster, as you guys well know. In this era, everything's a 1-year contract at this point. And we're just sort of being honest with that, is players can leave at the drop of a hat when the right money is thrown in that direction. So they're going to have to do some work. And Brownell and this staff are going to have to go out there and really push it when they're trying to replace some guys. Because do you think Asa Thomas, Dallas Thomas, Ace Buckner, is that group ready to necessarily contribute yet? Based off of this year, I don't think so. Do you think that the next transfer class in, the Zach Fosters, the Trent Steiners, the Chase Thompsons, are they ready to contribute? based off of Brownell's history of freshmen, I wouldn't necessarily count on it. So I think for this group, it's going to have to be busy in the portal, and there's going to be there's already a lot of talented players. There's a guy from Nevada that Clemson's talked to, 15 points per game score, that has a lot of promise, but there's also going to be a lot of competition. North Carolina, St. John's, Duke, they've been talking to him too. So it's just a matter of where this group's headed. Brownell's probably not booking a flight to Cabo anytime soon.
Grayson, and I guess my last one for you to kind of piggyback off of that. A lot of frustration yesterday and last night from Clemson fans regarding Brad Brownell and the timing of his extension. It stinks, right? That's all. That's the only way I can describe it, right? It being a little sour. I classify Brad Brownell as a good coach, and those that I talk to, who are college basketball coaches and are in the know when it comes to the sport, they are so high, and they give much praise to Brad Brownell. So it looks as if Brad Brownell will be sticking around Clemson for several more years, 3 to 5, 6 years, right, based on that new extension that he got. But where do you think Clemson fans are and should be on their feelings toward Brad? Because let's go back in the past. 6 years ago, there was a big drought. He didn't make the tournament for a long time. Last year, he lead 8. This year, first-round exit. And some of those ill feelings toward Brownell are resurfacing. Is that unfair for Clemson fans in your mind to feel that way?
And I put this out on Twitter this morning just because I had to take some time to sort of decompress, talk to a couple folks, and I said, if you took yourself back in time 2 years ago and Clemson had just lost to Morehead State in the NIT, and you had told them that in a 2-year stretch that Clemson would reach the Elite Eight and they would push that further with their best regular season in program history and add a tournament appearance. Yes, the context is that tournament appearance was rather ugly, but I think a lot of Clemson fans, given the success of the program at the time, they'd probably sign up for that. And I think Clemson basketball in the last 18 months have almost become a victim of their own success. If that maybe it's not necessarily fair. And it's like, if the standard's raised, the standard should be staying that way. But I think in terms of where this group is at versus where they were 2 years ago, I think they're a pretty good spot. And I'm in the camp that I think more success is on the way. I've written extensively on TigerNet that there's a formula here for Brad Brownell to build. That's going to be put to the ultimate test this offseason. Yeah. But I do think he's found something that will work. And next year's going to be a big year. And whether that's another tournament appearance or whatever the future has in store, I think that Brownell has earned the benefit of the doubt for the most part. But I do think the frustration from last night is incredibly fair. So it's sort of like I'm trying to eat my cake and eat it too in this answer, but I think a lot of fans are fair to be frustrated, but at the same time, let's not wipe away 2 years of what he's been able to achieve with this program based off of one game. We just saw Kansas lose yesterday, who hasn't lost a first-round game in decades. So It's just sort of how the cookie crumbles with this tournament. Grayson,
we appreciate you. You're the best. Safe travels coming home. I'll be at Clemson tomorrow for the baseball game. It'd be great if you swung. No, look, you've worked enough. You get a day off, right? TigerNet giving you a day off. I think you should. I think the grind doesn't stop, gentlemen. So probably tomorrow. I love it. We'll see if I see Grayson Mann tomorrow. Grayson, we appreciate you as always. Grayson Mann, TigerNet.com. Always a fantastic interview, and you definitely need to check out.
Always streaming on the free Odyssey app. Search the Fan Upstate. And you're wired to Diesel and Cole Bryson on Wire to Wire.
On the Fan Upstate.
I'm Chuck Sanders. Here's the Sports Flash presented by Progressive. NCAA Women's Tournament, South Carolina battles Tennessee Tech this afternoon. It's a 4 o'clock tip. The Gamecocks have the top seed, Tennessee Tech the 16th. In Birmingham Regional 2, the winner will face either Utah or Indiana. NCAA Men's on Thursday, Clemson upset 69-67, the loss against 12th-ranked McNeese. The Tigers were the 5th seed in the Midwest region. The Cowboys advanced to take on Purdue on Saturday after the Boilermakers beat High Point 75-63. Elsewhere Thursday, Tennessee eliminated Wofford 77-62. Texas Tech over UNC Wilmington 82-72. Gonzaga 89-68 over Georgia. First round today, Duke has the top seed in the East. They battle Mount St. Mary's. North Carolina, the 11th seed in the South. They battle Ole Miss. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. Download the Odyssey app, search the Fan Upstate, and listen anywhere on your phone. I'm Chuck Sanders.
I'm Bob Burke. founder and chairman of Burke America Parts Group, a family of brands that includes RepairClinic.com, an appliance and HVAC parts solution company that's grown into an international brand. Before AmericanEagle.com, we partially launched a new technology platform developed by another firm. American Eagle helped take our technology to a whole new level with digital marketing, software development, and business insights into our key markets, appliances, HVAC, and outdoor power equipment, and did so both on time and on budget. AmericanEagle.com has the resources, experience, and talent needed to produce solutions. Our new technology platform, developed by AmericanEagle.com, has produced tremendous results with higher traffic, conversion, engagement, and online revenue. If you have any home repairs you need to take care of, check us out at RepairClinic.com. If you need a world-class website or technology project, then I would highly recommend AmericanEagle.com.
Call AmericanEagle.com at 773-NETWORK. That's AmericanEagle.com, 773-NETWORK.
Some people just know they can save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or allstate.com. Like you know to check you have gas first before road tripping through the desert.
Empty? Seriously? Maybe I can walk.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So if you want to save money, check Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or allstate.com.
Maybe I can't.
You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
This is the story of the one. As a quality technician in a food processing center, she knows that making the right call is the best way to avoid a recall. That's why she trusts Grainger's world-class supply chain to deliver the high-quality supplies she needs to help keep her production line, her equipment, and her customers happy and healthy. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is the story of the one. He's responsible for keeping a leading healthcare facility clean and safe. And he trusts Grainger's high-quality HVAC cleaning and safety products, combined with their world-class supply chain, to consistently deliver, ensuring he's covered inside and out, so he can focus on keeping his facility clean to help protect the health of everyone inside. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Join the Candy Crush All-Stars tournament now.
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play.
Make it to the live final for your chance to win a share of $1 million. Play Candy Crush now.
Get your game on, go play.
Selected level 5 plus 18 plus. In-game event ends 0300 EDT 27 April. Win the in-game event. Receive an invite to the live contest in June in California. Requires U.S. travel. For terms and conditions, visit 2.king.com/terms.
Tonight, expect a mostly clear night with a low of 41.
Weather brought to you by Staples. Your local Staples store has hot deals and super low prices throughout the store.
Well, we no longer have a perfect bracket in our wire-to-wire challenge. However, still doing pretty well with a 99.9% accuracy rating.
I do have to
for Calm Down Liberob.
Diesel Brian Pettit, who's a Tolo, right? Brian Pettit reported that he called me during the break. He called the show, and he was talking about the Liberob, whoever it is.
Calm Down
leading.
Liberob.
That's right. Brian Pettit has a theory, and I like it. I'm not a man of excuses, but Brian Pettit believes that's a bot.
Who's got 9? Drew.
He believes Rob Brown has somehow intentionally set a bot, and that's the story
Wow.
we're going with.
So we're going with Skynet. Skynet is Calm Down Liberob.
I don't know, but we're thinking it's a bot, so we don't know. Hopefully they continue.
Can they do that?
I don't think so, but I like
Brian
Pettit's
Pettit.
theory. I do
Smart.
like it, though. What?
Smart idea. Drewtopia in second place. So Calm Down Liberob has 220 points. Drewtopia has 200. I Got This has 200. and Brian Pettit has 200. So if you think about it, Cole, yes, there is someone who attached TRBS onto the number one spot, and credit where credit is due.
Sure.
Calm down, Libber Rob's doing great. But in the top 2 slots, which comprises of 5 people, we're 50-50.
Good.
Yeah, we're
Good. So
50-50.
we've still got a shot at this. Hey, by the way, do you see where Brian Pettit is?
Brian Pettit is tied for second place.
Yeah.
Brian
He's rocking
Pettit.
it, man. He's
Dude,
rocking
what
it.
is your secret?
He told me, he called during the break. He said, I don't even watch college basketball that much. But he said,
I just saw a meme, Cole, of a guy and his girlfriend sitting side by side. The guy looked miserable. The girl was like ecstatic, laughing, having a good time. And it's like, my girlfriend still with a perfect bracket when she doesn't watch any basketball all year.
And that's what we talked about yesterday with Rob Brown's wife. If she has a better bracket than Rob, which I'm pulling for, is Courtney.
Courtney, yep.
I'm pulling for Courtney to have a better bracket than Rob so that he has to go 365 days of hearing his wife tell him that she knows more ball than he does.
So Courtney is currently in 15th place with 180 points. She picked Kentucky as her national champion. Which is a little bit of a stretch.
It's a stretch, but it's an interesting sleeper pick, okay?
Knower of ball Rob Brown,
of course, that's his name.
is tied with 180 points. He's got Auburn as his national
Is he
champion.
behind her right now?
He is behind her
Good, let's
when it
go.
comes to the max number of points that they can score in this challenge. Now, exactly how ESPN, I think they probably put like you get 10 points for getting a round of 64 game
Yeah,
right.
I think so.
Maybe 15 or 20 points for a round of 32, 40, however they calculate this in a graduating scale. But I have moved up to 88th place. Feeling good about that.
Congratulations.
Still on the last page. I haven't gotten off the last page yet. But
you're not last.
Not last. I'm not last. Where are you?
Let's see. I was not.
I'll give you a second.
So I'll tell you this.
You're not Cole runs a 5.240?
No. Last night going in, I was like 13th. However, I lost some games today. As of right now, I am. I've got an Arby's ad. I'm 67th.
67.
Not good.
With how many points?
160.
160
See,
points.
I lost 3 games already today, man. I
Yeah.
lost 3
You've
games.
taken it on the chin today.
I know. Today's losses for me, I lost Baylor, Mississippi State. I also lost Vandy, St. Mary's. I hit Colorado State, hit Iowa State, hit Bama, hit Duke, hit Maryland, lost Ole Miss, North Carolina. So I'm 4-3 today.
I have hit Ole Miss, hit Iowa State, lost on Memphis.
That's only one loss.
One on Duke, one on Baylor.
Yeah.
One on St. Mary's, one on Alabama. Lost on.
So you've got 2 losses. Not
Yeah.
bad today.
I've got 2
If
losses,
you only
but
had 2 yesterday, you'd be in good shape.
But again, still one incoming because I had Texas beating Illinois. So that's a guaranteed loss upcoming.
Next game is actually, did it just tip? Norfolk State, Florida. Yeah, just tipped.
Come on. Do you remember their?
Anteaters.
No. No.
Norfolk State.
They're the Trojans.
Oh, okay.
The
sorry.
Norfolk State Trojans.
Should have known that. Should have known.
Yeah.
Florida's
Spartans. No, they're the Spartans.
Yeah.
They're the Spartans.
They're up 3-0 on Florida. By
How
the way.
about it?
How
Calling
about
the upset. Why haven't I gotten an
16
ESPN notification
over 1.
already?
Yeah, 16-1. Breaking news. Oh no! Look, they just changed
Upset
it.
alert.
They just changed it on the scoreboard. They had Norfolk State 3-0, and then it just changed to Florida 3-0.
What?
Yes, I swear.
Idiots over there.
They did, yeah. What are they doing? So it's 3-2 now. Florida leads. So
I'm telling you, man, this is the most fun time of year. You can do this for a living. You can put a lot of time and effort and research and thought
matter.
into your bracket. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It could get blown all to hell. Eric McLean, smart guy, had Louisville, Duke, Clemson, and Florida as his final 4.
Sorry.
And 2 of them have already been eliminated.
Tolos, have fun this weekend. It was a blast. Shout out to JJ for killing it today behind the big train. producing, training a little bit, and we will see you Monday, round of 32. Man, that's going to be a lot of fun. We will discuss it. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and let's do this thing again on Monday right here on the Fan Upstate.